we go. Yo, what's up, everybody? We are live. Welcome to Xbox Ultimate Podcast, episode number 107. 107. You know what? In 10 episodes, it'll be a special episode because we'll be episode 117. And if you're a Halo fan, that means a lot to you, like we are. But except for Pong Soul, this casual Halo fan. But hey, what's up, everybody? Chat. Thanks for hanging out. Yeah, I accidentally hit the button extra early today. So, you know, thanks for the guys and ladies here piling in at, like, early for the show. You know, we're starting off with 33 people, which is actually a lot for us for the start of a show here. So appreciate every single person here ready to get started with some fun. And shout out to some of the amazing people in the chat. I see my lovely wife Kaitlin hanging out in the chat. She's skipping the show today. She said she's got better things to do. Yeah, I understand. It's okay. All right, what's up, babe? We got Fastback in the chat. What's up, RSJ fam? What's up, Talos Ray? Razor NZ, how you doing? Ellis Murderman Foster, Dova 360. What's up? What's up? Miguel Rosales Portillo. Hello, how you doing? Phasma, how are you? Spider-Man, what up? Focus Active, Leonard Herrera, how's it going? Alvin, what's up, dude? How's it going with you? Mind for Hire, how are you? Man, whew, we got a lot of stuff to cover today.
Man, I threw the article in the DMs, by the way.
I threw it in the DMs. The reason I laughed is because I put it there and immediately after you
well, I was just going through searching for it. So all right, cool. We're both on the same page.
Appreciate it. Which one? The Satya article?
No, the Splinter
Cell. Okay.
Yeah, the VGC article that quotes it.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Well, intros. Hey, I'm not Pong Soul, the now newly crowned king of intros, obviously, right? Which I have to admit, that was an epic intro yesterday, and lots of conversation about that on Twitter right now that he gave to Jez on PM in the PM last night. But we'll start with the intros with the one and only encyclopedia of gaming dating back to the very first game ever created, Pong Soul. What's up, Pong?
Yo, it is Friday. I am here, and listen, Battlefield first, forever. That's who I am. Battlefield's in a good state right now, but Call of Duty, this beta is anything to go by, is back. Infinity Ward is raising the bar yet again with this one. This is absolutely incredible. I've been having a great time with the beta. You, me, Jasper, everybody's been playing on it. And I gotta say, I am so freaking impressed with this beta so far, and I'm having an absolute blast on it. So it's been a good week. I have been working from home again. Got to do an afternoon show with you, Mav, yesterday with Jez, which was awesome to be able to do that and make a special time for him. So yeah, it's been a great freaking week. Got a lot going on, but gotten a lot of gaming in as well on top of everything else. So we got a lot to talk about though, and let's get down to business, man.
Yeah, dude, 100%, man. That was a fun show yesterday. You know, we kept it 2 hours for Jez, right? Then I had to go work right after the show. And then I
want to keep going, and all of a sudden Mav's like, well, no, because we didn't even talk about it
I know,
beforehand, so I had no idea they had to go back to work, so I was just gonna let Jez go. We were gonna continue on topics, and Mav's like, let's get out of here.
I wanted to keep going as well. I would have loved to go for 4 hours.
We had more to talk. We had more to talk about.
A lot, because some of the stuff we wanted to get into yesterday, we're going to get into tonight for sure. Hey, the always fuzzy one himself, the smooth-voiced man, Fuzzy Belvedere. What's up, Fuzz?
What's up, everyone? Glad to be here. Man, just an awesome week of news, and you guys killed it yesterday with having Jez as a guest yesterday. So awesome show yesterday, guys. But man, the topics for today, can't wait to dive into those. Glad to be here with you guys and everybody in the chat. So let's get to it.
Heck yeah, man. We're gonna have a lot of fun. This is gonna be a hype show, I think. Then we have the lore master himself, Lord Jasper. What's up, Jasper? How's it going, dude?
It's going all right. Just playing hard space shipbreakers. So
amazing
now and then.
game, isn't it, Jasper? You like it?
Yeah, it's fun. It takes a minute to, like, when I first played it, like the controls and the orientation in space, it takes a second to get used to. So, like,
but they actually become pretty intuitive, don't they? After you play with it for a while,
So you're
every now and then, like
dismantling a ship. Is that kind of what you do, right?
Yeah. Every now and then, like, if you go inside the ship and like kind of start tearing things out from the inside, and then you come back out, you can get a little disoriented again. But
yeah. Or if you're chasing a floating piece somewhere and all of a sudden you're upside down and you don't know where anything's at. It's hectic sometimes, but it's fun as hell. I love that game.
Wow. And then obviously the Call of Duty beta, just playing that with you guys last night. Get the MP5. It's the best gun in the game right now.
I really wanted to play before the show. I was thinking I was going to be able to, and it was one of those. I was out working, and it's one of those things where you think it's going to take like an hour and a half to go run to one place to another, and do some things. Ends up taking like 4 hours plus just because of one thing.
You mean like
after
McDonald's
another.
last night?
Well, McDonald's is always a travesty, like
Kaitlin said they were going to be back in a half hour to play. It
Oh,
literally was like 90 minutes.
yeah, it was like 90 minutes. That was interesting, traffic. And here's the thing, last night at McDonald's, right, like I was getting try to get 2 double cheeseburgers plain, and we got a Happy Meal, right?
Plain? What
Yeah.
the
2 double, that's simple enough, right? Okay, you can criticize our
I'm with
order
you.
at
I
another
don't want
time,
ketchup
right?
or any of that other crap on there either.
We got 2 double cheeseburgers plain, right? They hand us a triple cheeseburger with bacon and like mustard only, and a McDouble with like everything on it or something like that.
That's
and
what you
like,
get
and
for your
other
stupid
things.
taste buds. That's exactly what you
And
get.
and then in the Happy Meal they didn't put the toy, so I went in there and I was like, hey, like we got 2 double cheese plain, and I think you gave us somebody else's triple cheeseburger with bacon and somebody else's other double cheeseburger, and and then my wife calls me, hey, they also forgot the toy. So I was like,
Can I ask if the toy was for you all or your daughter?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
It's just like you get a Happy Meal that comes with a toy. Like she, I think it was a 6-piece nugget Happy Meal. I think my daughter wanted the nuggets, and so
because I was just like, why are you making such a big deal out of a toy?
Kate says those were for me and Kaylee Pong. I wouldn't have really cared, but it was pretty cool. It's like one of those cars you pull back and it shoots.
Oh, okay.
Right. I got some McDonald's toys here. Sometimes they have cool stuff that I collect. I got like a Grimlock, right? And I got a Megatron. Yeah. I got more somewhere. Anyway, hey, we'll stop talking stupid stuff. Hey, let's get into some gaming stuff. Hey guys, does that sound like a good idea? General Spartan says, was it a late night order? No, it was like what, 6?
Yeah.
Something? 6
It was
o'clock to
early.
8, 7, something. I don't know. It wasn't that bad.
I mean, every
That's
McDonald's
crazy.
I go to is trash anyway.
Oh yeah.
It's like,
And then we got the double cheeseburgers, and they were like cold. Like the cheese was like just came out of the fridge, and I don't know. It was weird. Anyway,
So we got the training McDonald's by me, so I always get
Yeah.
good food. Everything's hot all the time because they got managers on duty training the kids, and the kids want to do everything right. So we always get great food up by the McDonald's by us.
I think that we don't even have a training McDonald's here. I don't think they exist. I think they just throw the kids to the wolves and like, hey, figure it out.
Do you have kiosk at your McDonald's out your way, or is it?
Yeah,
coming
but we
out
started doing like a mobile order thing to where you just give them the code when you pull up to the drive-through, and then they give you the food when you pull up to the window, right?
Okay.
So that makes it simple too, because you get like coupons and stuff if you use the codes. Like every day, guys, here's a hack, right? For McDonald's hack, every day they have a large fry for $1 in the app.
Look at that. Masshole even understands how bad your taste buds is. He says you probably order your fries without salt. I'm sure he probably does, Masshole.
No, I want salt. No, I do not. I love salt. I love salt. Speaking of salt, there's been a lot of salt lately, revolving around the Activision Blizzard acquisition, which we're going to get into later for sure. But we'll start with let's start with one of our favorite games ever on this panel, especially for Pong Soul. And I think you're in the same boat, Fuzz, with Splinter Cell. And Jasper, are you a Splinter Cell fan? Okay, you're gonna. We'll get to you last on this one. Then, so yesterday there was an article that was actually quoted out from VGC, and for those that don't know, yes, Splinter Cell is coming back. Ubisoft has already actually announced this previously, and they had made a post about it, talking about what their vision for the Splinter Cell remake is. Some people got confused and thought it was a remaster, where this is more of a remake, reboot type situation, bringing the franchise back. And they said a lot of the right things in that initial announcement. But yesterday, this article kind of made the rounds from VGC. And I got to kind of call out VGC a little bit for kind of a misleading tweet and clickbait here. Because they kind of just take this one little section of a hiring post and tried to make a big controversy about it. And who knows? I think it's like a wait and see approach for a lot of us here, but trying to stir up negativity potentially about something that nobody knows 100% at all what this is going to be like. But this tweet actually from VGC says, Ubisoft Splinter Cell remake will rewrite and update the original game story for a modern day audience. That's all it says, right? So if you click on the article and read it, it says the Splinter Cell remake will update the game story for a modern audience. The remake will use the original game as its foundation. So hey, they left out of the original tweet as well, the clickbait type stuff. Also, it says, as spotted by PSU, developer Ubisoft Toronto is currently looking to recruit a script writer to update the original game story for a modern day audience. So I'm going to go into what their actual wording was that they actually said. So using the first Splinter Cell game as our foundation, we are rewriting and updating the story for a modern day audience. Read the script writer job ad. Now, if you just like say that just kind of makes a lot of sense. You know what I mean? Like this game has been absent for over 10 years now, I believe. What was the last one? 2013?
13? Yeah.
Or so? Yeah, so almost 10 years, almost a decade without a Splinter Cell game. So obviously, you know, when you're coming out with a new game, you know, you're probably having to bring in a script writer and all these different things, and you're trying to bring it to your new audience, right? Because it's not necessarily going to be the same audience that you had to begin with. Now, we all want to think Splinter Cell is going to be exactly what it was 10 years ago, right? Which, if we go back and read the original announcements from their posts, they actually take 100% roots of like they want to make this feel like a Splinter Cell game. They want it to be linear, right? They want to take all these things and then they want to make it about the same style of game and everything that it was before. But people are using this as like this whole culture issue with this game now. So it says, we want to keep the spirit and themes of the original game while exploring our characters and the world to make them more authentic and believable. That's also in the job ad. That doesn't sound too bad, does it? So as a script writer at Ubisoft Toronto, you will join the narrative team and help create a cohesive and compelling narrative experience for a new audience of Splinter Cell fans. So for some reason, this hiring post has caused a lot of controversy on Twitter. And I bash Ubisoft a lot, right? I go after them a whole lot. And I've seen so much talk about this specific thing on Twitter, and I just honestly do not know where it's coming from. I understand there's trepidation when we've seen things with other games recently, and it's a little bit of fear that they're doing that to this as well. But I think it's a little bit of misled and primarily struck on purpose based on clickbait articles and clickbait headlines here. Did Pong, you're probably 1A Splinter Cell fan here, you know?
Yeah.
What is your takeaway from their hiring post? Was there anything to even create an article about?
Yes and no. I understand the desire to write an article because, again, language these days can be taken a lot of different ways. And I think that some of the terminology that's used, let's just talk about this industry since we're talking about gaming, can be misconstrued in multiple different ways because different companies or different people use the same kind of terminology, but in different context. And so I think that, like you said, you know, there is this fear of some of our nostalgic games being no longer able to, you know, no longer made a certain way because of PC culture in 2022 and such. And we've seen some of it in Saints Row. So they're still fresh in some people's minds. So when somebody reads this, I understand why there might be a jump to conclusion. I don't agree with jumping to conclusions, obviously. I'm a more wait and see type of person. That's the way that I took, you know, Saints Row when I was scared that they were going to do exactly what they did do to the characters. But I took a wait and see approach, and I was like, prove me wrong. I'm like, I'll sit back, I'll wait. I watched you play it, you know, watched other people play it, saw the videos, and it was what I feared. But this Splinter Cell, like we were talking behind the scenes, man, with Splinter Cell, what are you going to do to Sam Fisher? Like, even if you take Sam Fisher out of the equation, again, we can't have Michael Ironside, as you always say, Mav, doing Sam Fisher at 90 years old. Okay, that's not going to work, people. We do have to move on from Sam Fisher at some point.
So
okay?
Troy Baker, or
right, exactly. So if they're going to move on from Sam Fisher, then I understand exactly what they're talking about. Again, if they make it a female, if like we've talked about in the past, if we bring in Sarah, his daughter, as to take over the lead role, would there still be people upset? Of course there would, because there's idiots everywhere that for some reason can't stand playing a female lead. Okay, fine. Those idiots are out the door. But again, how much are you going to take away from Sam Fisher? How much are you going to actually change? Sam Fisher or the role in that game is going to have to be a badass at the end of the day. You're still going to be doing spy stuff. You're still going to be infiltrating areas. You're still going to be sneaking around, snapping necks, capping people in the head with silencers, all that kind of stuff. You're still going to be doing the badass stuff. Again, it's like James Bond. Who the hell cares who really plays James Bond? James Bond's going to have to be a badass at the end of the day, right? So that part isn't going to change. So again, I think there's a lot of just kind of fear right now just because we've seen it in other games, but I don't think in this case, again, I could be proven wrong. I don't think in this case there's anything here. I think we're all going to see the reboot and be like, oh, okay, this is what they meant. And it's going to be game on. It's going to be a Splinter Cell that we've all been waiting for. That's where I'm at with it. So,
yeah, I think we need to give them a chance, right? You know what I mean? And that's
absolutely,
that's what some people are. I think they're just like, hey, let's squash it before it happens because it's not going to be like what we want. So let's just like, and like, I just can't get behind that. Like there's a lot of reasons even. Okay. So let's say some people's worst case scenario, they replace Sam Fisher as the lead character and it's a female, right? Oh my God. Right. That would be devastating to a lot of people because it's not Splinter Cell. Right. And I get it. But then you got to look at some of the realities, right? We got back in the last game, right? Michael Ironside could not do the role because he actually had a serious health issue. He had cancer. He was actually convinced he was going to die.
Correct.
Okay. He stepped away. They gave the role of Sam Fisher to another actor. Was any of us fans of that version of Sam Fisher? I personally, it was just like whatever. It wasn't Sam.
It was fine. It wasn't Sam.
It wasn't Sam, right?
But yeah.
So okay, so for me, like Michael Ironside has had comments that he says, "I am Sam Fisher," right? Yeah. I see Michael Ironside as Sam Fisher. Sure. I don't know unless you hunt for a long time and have all these big, huge casting things. If you can find the right person to fill that role, okay?
Troy Baker could probably.
I was thinking about that. I thought maybe like Kiefer Sutherland might do a decent job at that.
Well, yeah, we had the Kiefer ordeal with Snake, right? Yeah. Playing in Metal Gear, so that's been done. But yeah, I wouldn't mind it either. And I think too, Mav, not to cut you off, but I forgot the point that I was going to make too. I think with this post, I don't know why people are putting so much stock into this post when we have the developer interview that you and I broke down for 2 hours.
Which I have here as well. We can go over some of that.
Right, because that's what everybody should be looking at. What they said in there is more important than this little offhanded comment on a hiring page. That developer interview told us more, if they're being real, which obviously sounded like they were. That told us more about what this game is going to be about and should give people confidence more so than just this little nonsense on the side here.
I think the problem with this article is they put quotes around for a modern day audience when the line before that is update the original story for a modern day audience, where they just put the quotes around for a modern day audience. It makes you think that they're doing that, but
dramatic.
It's dramatic effect of
kind of missed that first part of it where it says game story. So I don't know.
So we've had a lot of conversation in the past about possible female character, right? With Splinter Cell, and there's reasons that have actually happened since then that could lead to potential that could be a case. Now,
a book.
There's a book. Yes, a book that's actually out with the female lead character, and guess what? It's somebody from the history of Splinter Cell. It is Sam's daughter, Sarah. You can go back and look at the history of my tweets. I have tweets where I just only wrote the word Sarah, right? Because I was convinced at the time we were going to get an announcement of a Splinter Cell game where Sarah Fisher would be the lead character and Sam Fisher would still play a role in the game. So therefore,
and let's give credit. It was Kaitlin who brought it up.
It was Kate's idea. Yes. It was, there's a way you could make this work and still stay true to the original franchise, right? Where you have an aging Michael Ironside. He's in his 70s now, right? He's had health issues in the past. We could still get that Sam Fisher we know and love, and you play a different role with that character to where it's more of a companion or overseer, or you know what I mean, somebody that's behind the scenes or helping along the way, somebody that's giving advice. He could take the place of the person in the ear, you know what I mean, and then you can kind of portray and have this passing of the baton to a new character. There's many different ways you could portray this. You could have Sarah Fisher helping to save her dad and return the favor, right?
I wouldn't mind, like, if they're gonna reboot it, like I wouldn't mind it, like, just to start like a generic like action movie thing where like the dad's like, oh, I gotta do this one last mission and his daughter gets taken or whatever, and then he goes and saves his daughter and is like, now you got to become the Splinter Cell or whatever, you know. It's like just some generic bullshit like that. Like it works because like it works for all those 80s action movies and 90s action movies and stuff. Like
that's the way we had it, but just the twist was to start out with Ironside gone missing on a mission, and they call in his daughter Sarah to go help see what the hell happened, and she's got to go get him out.
Yeah.
Right?
And
that's the
this was
the baton.
We had been saying this before that book was even announced.
Yeah. Yes.
And
we had come up with the whole plot line.
and then we saw the book and we're like, holy shit, this is actually happening. Oh my God, Sarah Fisher's going to take Sam's role. I would be completely down with that because you have a history when it makes sense for the franchise, right? It makes sense for the franchise going forward, and you pass the baton. Now you could also, if you just have to play as a guy, right? If you're one of those people, I just got to play as a guy character, whatever. Maybe they could do that with a co-op, right, or something like that as well. They've had that situation before. Even in Conviction, you had multiple playable characters in the co-op modes and stuff like that. Fuzzy, like, do you think this article may be trying to sensationalize and stir up some stuff, or do you think that's like actually like real concern, or what? Where are you at with this?
I think there may be a little bit of concern on the author's part, but I think it's more so to stir up the conversation, especially like kind of like what Pong was saying with more recent games, as far as their neutering or toning down of some sort in comparison to what they were originally. Like I kind of took it more so as, you know, updated for current times, or more of a modern audience, looking at like the current climate in the world, whether we're looking at China as far as, you know, electronic spying possibly, or if we're looking at the issues with Russia trying to reclaim territories and things like that. I could see them incorporating some of the more current day news. Gadgets. Yeah, I could see them incorporating some of the current day news into that story to kind of give more of a reasoning of why Sam, you know, in his 70s is still going out there and kind of completing some of these things, or reaching out to, you know, previous contacts, and maybe he's in more of the handler position or something along those lines. But yeah, I could totally see more so updating it so that way you're looking at what we consider our current enemies, or the unknowns, or the insurgents out there that he would be interacting or countering type of thing. So I can understand the concern to some extent, but it's like there's so much more that can be read into that as far as for updating with what we see just in the news as we speak type of thing. So that's my view on it.
So going into this, you know, I'm looking at an old article from Ironside, right? He said, basically, like, it was hard for him to step away from that role originally. You know what I mean? He didn't want to, because he identifies himself as Sam Fisher as well, right? He's voice acted on some of the DLC stuff we've gotten in other games since then. Now that he's come back a little bit. But when you're thinking about rebooting a franchise, which is what this is, what the purpose of this is, I'm thinking of like, you're trying to set the ground floor of the franchise going forward, right? And how do you do that? Maybe you have one game where he is the lead character and you also have Sarah Fisher, and it's like he's kind of training her and they work together, and that's a co-op aspect as well, or whatever. There's lots of avenues you can go with this, but the key is they're trying to go back to the original core aspects of what makes Splinter Cell game a Splinter Cell game. And that's what is ignored completely by this. and also by anybody, because even guess what? When it was announced before, nobody really even talked about it. It's like we have something that we've all been wanting for so long is a Splinter Cell to come
Man, I am
back.
getting excited for this game right now. I just want like a classic spy game, and just
Dude,
There you
Have
go,
they-
Jasper. There you go.
Have they remastered any of these, or is it just
some
Backwards
of them have
compatible.
resolution boost, and that's
Yep.
about it. You know, if we go back and what they have been saying before, we covered this on PM and the PM. We covered this on other shows, and we talked about this when they announced this. What is one of the number one things that gamers ask for every time there's a Ubisoft conference, or every time, like this year, everybody was disappointed. Oh, there's no Splinter Cell at Ubisoft Forward, right? At every E3 in the past, it's like, oh, there's no Splinter Cell. We've been saying that for a decade now, right? And we finally had news, and it's a lot of stuff that we wanted to hear from what their official posting was, and nobody talked about it. It was like, oh, yeah, we did, right? We did, because we're huge Splinter Cell fans, and we actually were like, holy shit, this is actually happening. Oh my God, you know? But there, like, I didn't hear hardly any conversation on any podcast about it. I didn't hear hardly any conversation about any other shows, or even on Twitter, people talking about that much. And even today, if you tell people on Twitter, or whatever, they're making a new Splinter Cell, they'll be like, what? That's happening? Yes, it's happening. And it's like this one article surprised a lot of people. Oh, they're remaking Splinter Cell, and it's going to be woke. Like, that's not what this means. Like, it's just reading too much into this, and it's like just creating negativity for negativity purposes, right? I think we got a lot to wait and see. Who knows how it's going to turn out? Who knows how it's going to turn out? But if we've been asking for this franchise for so damn long to come back, to have this negativity stoked almost intentionally, it seems, by articles out there written about the game just for a hiring post, is pretty shitty, in my opinion. Now, let's look into this also. I want to go back to that original post where we can maybe set some people's minds at ease, right? Splinter Cell remake announced. Okay, this was a Ubisoft's official post. We broke this down before on the show, and I feel like it's worthwhile, since we have people watching, to let people know exactly what they've said about the Splinter Cell game in the past to the audience, right? How are you approaching Splinter Cell as a remake? What makes it a remake and not a remaster? Then Matt West says, to me, a remake takes what you do in a remaster and goes a little bit further with it. The original Splinter Cell has a lot that was amazing and revolutionary at the time it came out 19 years ago. The gaming public has now an even more refined palette. So maybe that's even right there alluding to maybe you need to rewrite things for the new audience. Okay. So I think it kind of has to be a remake as opposed to a remaster. Although we're still in the very earliest of stages of development, what we're trying to do is make sure the spirit of the early games remain intact in all of the ways that gave early Splinter Cell its identity. So as we're building it from the ground up, we're going to update it visually, as well as some of the design elements to match player comfort and expectations. And we are going to keep it linear, like the original games. Not make it open world. How do we make sure that new fans are able to pick up the controller and dive right in and fall in love with the game and the world right from the get-go? Then we go on to, from a tech perspective, if I had to boil it down to a couple of words in terms of the difference, what we're doing is exploration and innovation here. We've got a new engine, which they're using the Snowdrop engine, everybody, from one of our favorite games, The Division. Right? One of the best engines out there that Ubisoft has at its disposal. We've got a new engine and a new console lifecycle to take advantage of. So the tech is one area that we don't want to be stuck in the past. So they're not going to rebuild off the old tech, which was what some people thought, even though they were clearly stating this was a new game, right? This is a new game built from the ground up, keeping at its heart the core aspects that make it Splinter Cell. They go on. The phrase stealth action redefined from the original game has actually proven to be a really valuable North Star for us. We're able to, for example, apply that to what they were just saying as far as being able to prototype and innovate and test some stuff out. That is very much in keeping with us redefining what stealth action is going to feel like for a modern audience. Okay, so the question is now portrayed. What aspects do you think are most important to update? What is the core of this experience that needs to be preserved? Splinter Cell was a breakthrough in stealth. As Matt mentioned, it was stealth defined with a huge focus on getting the core gameplay right above all and delivering on an ideal, be a ghost. It's important for us to preserve the sense of mastery by supporting players who observe the situations, make their plan, use their gadgets, and outsmart the enemy creatively to deal with the challenges that they are presented with. That sounds like pure stealth action to me. Does it not to you? That sounds like Splinter Cell all the way, right? Ideally, they end up coming out on the other side with no one having realized you were even there. That's the essence of Splinter Cell. That's the essence they're trying to get with this, right? They go on to say one of the things from their point of view is really exciting about the project is that the last couple of games, all of them have worked on have been really big worlds. What that means is that the economy of decisions is very spread out, whereas what he loves about Splinter Cell is every square inch represents intentionality. Every square inch is part of a choice or directly offers a choice or has a direct ramification. That density of gameplay is at the forefront in Splinter Cell. And that's going to be really, really important for us. Again, reemphasizing the fact that this is a linear game where everything is built around the player's experience going forward. Not an open world hub, nothing like that.
Seems like they're kind of doing the Hitman thing where like Hitman, you had Blood Money where it was like those levels where you go in, you do your stealth thing. And they got to Absolution where it's like almost a third person shooter. And then they kind of went back to the new Hitmans where it's like you go into a level, plan your stuff, and get out.
Yeah.
So it seems like they're doing that thing where they go back to their roots of their game.
And again, they say the gameplay experience we are targeting is directly tied to what we want the players to feel, to capture the essence back when we were all playing the original games. They go on to say, yeah, preserving what made those early games so compelling, we recognize a huge part of the appeal of Splinter Cell is the flawless planning, execution, and satisfaction you feel when you go in and absolutely ace every encounter. Seeing your mastery put on display at the end of things, especially when you go through with no alarms triggered, that's a big part of the Splinter Cell experience. We want to be sure we're honoring that. Snowdrop as a proven modern AAA engine, it empowers content creators and programmers to do to try things quickly, see what works, ultimately find success. And that's what the engine that they're using here. Again, they're able to try and get that core gameplay they go on to talk about within Snowdrop. So, I mean, this has all not even been talked about. Did we see any, like the amount of stuff we saw yesterday and today regarding Splinter Cell and this like rewriting of the script for modern audience? I didn't see a tenth of that regarding all of this. You know what I mean? I'm just saying. It's like people like negativity.
What's interesting, man, is hearing you go back and read that, right?
Yeah.
They didn't mention Sam Fisher once in that entire interview.
No, they
now,
did not.
You could look at that two different ways, right? But they were saying in that interview it was going to be a remake. They didn't say reboot once. They actually said remake, right?
Yeah.
Well, if it's not a reboot, if it's a remake,
I think it's a reboot.
It's got to be a reboot. It has to be a reboot, right?
Yeah.
Because again, those words, remake, remaster, reboot.
Unless if they do the Resident Evil route. Like they remade Resident Evil 1, but it's a completely different game.
Yeah, Resident Evil 2 remake, that's called remake. It's a completely different game, but those also follow the same story path with the same characters, which with this game, I don't, maybe they're going to go that route. That's what we don't know 100%. But for me, I would find it hard to recreate that same story with Michael Ironside today, which means the only way to do that is if you had a different Sam Fisher, right? And is that something people want, or would they rather have a new character? I don't know. Right.
So then it's a total reboot because again, it's really tough. Like listening to you go back through that interview, I was like, damn, they didn't mention Sam once. They talked about all the mechanics, they talked about all the important parts, all the stuff we love, but not Sam once. So then it would be a reboot if you're changing the main character. And Fuzzy, to your point, I re-looked it up because I forgot where the first Splinter Cell was set, because that was 2004. So that's 17 years ago, or 18 years ago already. And it was set in the country of Georgia. So it had Russian ties already.
Yeah.
Right? So they could still carry that over. But from the way that Mav reads the interview now and listening to it again, I don't think this is a remake. I think they're going to reboot and retell something new here completely, because that doesn't make any sense. Because you could reuse, if you're just doing a remake, you could reuse a lot of the Ironside voice, right? You use a lot of the old. If you're just going to go straight remake and you're just going to remake the story again, you could use a lot of the, obviously the audio from Ironside. But there's no way they're going to do that. They're going to have to change some things. They're going to have to update some things. So this has got to be a reboot. This has got to be a new character, and that's why they don't mention Sam once. It has to be.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I think it's a reboot. That's what Web kind of presented it as when I'm talking about it to people. I felt like this is a reboot of the franchise, because when they talked about this, also there's more to this interview as well from the developers. And when they talk about it, they're talking about setting a ground floor for the franchise going forward. And that was a big part of what this game is going to be. And that sentence alone, when reading that, made me feel like this is a reboot, because you're not just rebooting a game, you're rebooting the franchise, right? And if you're rebooting the franchise, you got to make some decisions on how you're going to do that, especially in a story that is so attached to one character. Now, you could go back and redo the same games all over again, like Capcom has, and present them in new gameplay ways. But then also, the issue with that for me is Michael Ironside is so attached to that character. It's hard to imagine it. Now, maybe somebody else could nail it. I don't know.
They could do, like, Modern Warfare is a reboot, but they keep some of the same story elements from the previous games, but they just kind of retell them in different time periods. Like it may be like a year before it took place in the original Modern Warfare. Now it's like a year after in this Modern Warfare. Right. So it's the same events. It's just told in a different way a little bit.
For me, it's almost like Indiana Jones, right? And Harrison Ford. You know what I mean? Do we get Indiana Jones movies in the future without Harrison Ford playing Indiana Jones? I don't know.
Had River Phoenix been alive, yes.
Yeah, had River Phoenix been alive, yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
But he's not.
But now? No, and you've heard Harrison. Harrison's the same way as Ironside.
Yeah.
I am Indiana Jones. I am Indiana. You can't replace me. Like, that's it. That's the end. So you have to pass the torch somehow.
It's just so it's almost like they made a mistake originally when they cast him, because it's like so unique of a voice and character and personality, and it's hard to replicate that with any voice actor, because there's only one Michael Ironside. You know what I mean? You can't have an impersonator, maybe a Michael Ironside impersonator trying to do Sam Fisher, but then they actually got to be able to act and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know, like, it's not just about the voice in itself. It's about the manner of speaking. It's about the way you deliver certain things. And that's created the character as much as any of the writing.
It's kind of the James Bond argument, though, isn't it? Like, everyone has their favorite James Bond.
Everybody has their favorite Bond, but that's one thing that, like, Bond's only had certain actors for certain amount of years, and they've nailed it several times with the castings, to the point where there is an argument to be had. You got to have somebody, if they are to take this now, and after one person besides the one game has played the character for now, almost 20 years, right? It's going to be hard. We're going to face the same thing when we see the new Wolverine, right? Yep. Whenever the new Wolverine comes out, we're going to be like, who the fuck is this guy? You know what I mean? Right. Like, it's not Hugh Jackman, so there's going to be it's going to be harsh criticism and going to be judged. And some people, no matter who it is going to hate it, if it's Sam Fisher. That's why I think you can still have Ironside there as Sam. But if you do that, you have to make some decisions with the story going forward about setting up the future of the franchise. Because guess what? If you want this to be another 20 years of games, I'm sorry, but the reality is there's no guarantee that he'll be able to do another Splinter Cell game in 10 years, right? So I hope for the best for this franchise, because as Halo is number one, Splinter Cell is one, like, right there. It's also number one. It's just the fact that we haven't really been served Splinter Cell games for a long time. It's a franchise that will be coming back, and not only that, but it's a travesty to the stealth genre in general that we haven't got it, because guess what? We haven't gotten a new Metal Gear in a long time too. And that
first Splinter Cell has some of the best physics in it even today. Like, they haven't even come close. Like, just the fish tank.
The fish tank.
The fish tank. It's like, we don't even get that in modern games, and it had it in 2004. It's like, what the hell?
climbing up
For
on the
those that don't
wall,
know,
snapping
the-
necks and stuff. I mean,
For those
come
that
on.
don't know, the fish tank thing was if you shot a bullet in the fish tank, the water would come out of the bullet hole and drop to that level, and then you could shoot it again and make it go down another bullet hole, and then if you shot it a third time, it just kind of broke. But like, they had water level physics and like in the fish tank, it was so good. Like I don't know, it's just
Yeah.
a weird thing.
On KhAos ThEory had no, like it was I don't know how that game was on an original Xbox. Like KhAos ThEory when it came out was like, how the hell is this on a console first off, and how does it look this good, and how is it like running? Because like this is insane. Wait, I'd never seen graphics like that before, period. And I was playing it on an Xbox. That was insane.
I played one of them on PC back in the day. It was like a test game, like for the PC graphics card, like to try to run or whatever. It was like for the benchmarking your graphics card. It was really good.
Yeah,
that's where I first got into Splinter Cell.
Yeah, and the other aspect of this is what I hope, which they did not talk about as well. You mentioned omissions, Pong Soul. There's another thing they didn't mention is multiplayer. Spies versus mercs.
Because we know we're going to get a monetized version of that.
Right. I'm okay with it as long as I get Spies versus mercs. If you want to sell me goggles, that are optional, you know what I mean? If I get that classic Spies versus mercs gameplay, there's no other game that delivered that. Like
there's a game that just came out on the PC
that's called Spies versus mercs.
It's called Spectre, I think, but it's Spies versus mercs, the game mode.
So it's third-person spies and first-person mercs.
I'm not sure if it's third or first person, but it's one team has like weapons and the other team has to try to sneak around and like do shit. It's that whole game mode. But
yeah, Halo's even coming out with a version on their November update with a Spies versus mercs mode, with the one team is in camo and the other team's like jacked up. There's something about Splinter Cell, like when you go behind a guy and you're a spy and you grab him behind the neck and that proximity chat turned on, and you could just talk the ultimate shit to them before you snap their neck. You know what I mean?
You can't do that now. That's the update for the modern audiences.
Well, Call of Duty does it. Call of Duty does it now.
Yeah, but they make you sign an agreement where you can't be toxic. So if you break it, then you get banned.
So when I call people a cocksucker after I kill them,
you get banned.
Oh, oops. I'll make sure. Good thing I'm not using the in game chat. Fuzzy, do you think that we're gonna get Spies versus mercs out of this, or do you think they're just gonna focus on the single player?
I don't think we get it initially. I think they wind up doing kind of like the Last of Us
Don't say that.
Part 1 remake.
Oh no. Okay.
I think it winds up being one of those things where it comes out later and kind of like Pong says, that they're going to find a way to monetize it. And I think in the grand scheme of things, if they keep it where it's just more of a cosmetic thing for the monetization, it'll probably work out without it, feeling overbearing or anything like that. And they'll have a kind of like a solid hit on their hands, so they don't have to worry about, is this single player aspect going to continue to sell? They'll have their multiplayer monetized version that they can focus separately, like have the same ones that do all of the PvP stuff for the Division, I think is Red Storm, have those guys be the ones that focus on those modes and things like that. And I think that will be the best option for it. But I think it winds up being split apart from the single player.
Yeah. Okay. I hope we get whatever it is, at least the multiplayer mode, getting Game Pass, right? Like, it's just, it had such a hit. I know I'm not saying everything needs to be in Game Pass, right? But Splinter Cell and specifically had such a history with Xbox, right? The first few games were exclusive.
Well, by that time, Ubisoft Plus should be out.
Hopefully, right? You're right. That is a very good point. I just hope that we get. I think that for Xbox, like it could be multiplayer. I don't care about that, right? I just think the Splinter Cell brand was always at its peak when it had a close association with the Xbox brand. It was almost like another mascot early on. It was almost like Master Chief and Sam Fisher with the Xbox, right? Back in the old days, So I would like to see some kind of marketing or arrangement with Microsoft on that, just so you can start identifying that character with Xbox again, because I kind of miss those days of having him part of the Xbox family, right? Or whatever new character there is. Maybe it's Sarah. I've seen some people be like, "Oh, we're gonna get a female lead character," like okay, yeah, cool. If it's a badass female, I don't give a shit. It's like it's like the gameplay's great and it's a good character. It doesn't
I
matter.
don't know what's wrong with the people that have an issue with playing a female character. It's like, didn't you play Tomb Raider? I mean, come on. I mean, Perfect Dark. I mean, there's tons of games out there. I mean, everybody is head over heels with Horizon with Aloy. So it's like, come on already. I don't know.
Yeah, and there's
Some people
actual
just
story reasons they could make that work. And I feel like if we got a female lead character, it'd probably be Sarah.
Yeah, I mean, your guys' idea as far as having it where it's like to pass the torch to his daughter, I think is the way to move the series forward. I mean, you get the best of all worlds. You still have Sam Fisher as like a more of like a handler role or something along those lines, and now you have his daughter being able to kind of
Yeah.
take his place and kick ass, take names type of thing. So that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, Mr. Joanna Dark says Sarah Fisher and Joanna Dark. Let's go. Yeah. I mean, that's a pretty badass duo right there. If you have that, right? All right, guys. Moving on. Past Splinter Cell. Halo. Yeah, we've discussed a lot of Halo lately, guys. Halo Infinite is in the news again, and
It is.
We talk about Halo in the Shire. I saw that today.
Oh yeah, I saw that today. That was another amazing.
That looked awesome.
Another amazing Forge creation. No, we're talking about Halo and Certain Affinity, actually, because they've actually come out and actually kind of addressed a little bit about. We know that Certain Affinity is working on multiple projects right now. We know that they're working on one of the leaked projects that they've actually alluded to themselves. That is going to be a like a Monster Hunter type game that they're supposedly working with on Xbox. They're working on another project with some other publishers. It's supposed to be some kind of like NFT type thing or whatever. They're also supporting on Halo Infinite right now as well. But they're also, what they said, which is interesting to me, is in this article from VentureBeat today, this was actually talked about the Blizzard veteran Paul Sams has became the president and chief operating officer at Certain Affinity. So Sams is working with Max Hoberman, a former Bungie employee, which, if you don't know Max Hoberman, pretty much he's the godfather of modern matchmaking. What he designed with Halo 2 is pretty much used within Call of Duty and all these games with console matchmaking and finding servers and how you keep those games flowing in rotation. He designed that originally. It's actually a really good interview with Max Hoberman with Ryan McCaffrey on IGN Unfiltered that aired a few years ago that I checked out. So I recommend that as a really good listen. But Max Hoberman is the founder of Certain Affinity, and they've become a support studio of like a multiplayer specialist for several franchises: Halo, Call of Duty. They've done multiplayer modes for Doom and several other games, right? So they've kind of become a multiplayer aficionado, right? So they've kept that relationship with Microsoft, and Sams is now back there. So he was asked, why is he going to Certain Affinity? It says Sams is being tapped to help lead growth so that Certain Affinity, which has worked on 30 titles like Call of Duty, Halo, World of Tanks, Left 4 Dead, and Hearthstone, can go to the next level. Most of its work so far has been helping other developers complete their ambitious game. Now it is weighing making its own IPs. So Certain Affinity is making its own games, which is, again, one of the games that Microsoft is working with them on. I spoke with Sams and Hoberman about running a studio at a time when the game market is in a state of flux. As world economic conditions and a tough gaming cycle add uncertainty, they say they will focus on developing a quality-based culture and leveling up the skill of the team. The company has 240 employees, and it's still hiring. So again, Sams comes from Blizzard, and that means he's worked on games like Diablo and StarCraft, and all those kind of things. But going into this article pretty much is led to them saying that the project that they're working on that's tied to Halo Infinite, Tatanka, is the biggest project they have, period, right now. That's where they have most of their resources. They said they have over 100 employees actually working on this game. And this game, as was rumored from Jez Corden originally, is rumored to be the Battle Royale mode coming to Halo Infinite in the future. And they said that it is something that we have not seen before in Halo, and that they're extremely excited about, and it's going to be a big deal. So, are y'all thinking this? I'm thinking this could be a 2023 thing potentially.
Well, it ain't coming out this year.
It ain't coming out this year because we would already heard about it. There was rumors originally that it could have been late this year.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm thinking we could potentially see this game next year, and I think it's going to be a pretty damn big deal.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if it was going to be for season 3, they would have already said that. So
Yeah.
we're looking probably either next November, maybe for like the 2-year anniversary. Like I'd say they announce it for the season 4, which will be like June or something. It gets pushed until November, and then it comes out for the season 2 anniversary.
Yeah. Okay. What about you, Fuzz? You think we can see 2023? Fuzz is on mute. Fuzz must have to step away. What about you, Pong?
Yeah, I think 2023 is when we definitely see it. So they'll get the Activision Blizzard deal done. They'll announce that they've acquired Certain Affinity, and then they'll announce the Battle Royales coming on top of it. I think all these moves are playing right into that. And so, yeah, no, I definitely see this showing up in 2023. They're going to need it. Forge is going to help out a ton, but they need something official.
They'll have it made in Forge before this ever comes out, which is
yeah, they'll have a version for sure. I mean, I read some details today, supposedly on the Battle Royale, and they're going to do things a little bit differently with the loot and stuff. It's going to be not scavenging bodies for loot. It's going to be controlling the points, which will award you loot. So there's going to be strategy involved to that. So that sounds pretty damn cool.
Yeah,
if that's
from
real.
what the early leaks were is like you get points for doing stuff, and then you can go to those rec stations like in campaign where you call in your weapons and stuff. You'll be able to go to those and select a weapon or something
select
like
a weapon and stuff like that.
Yeah.
No, it's gonna be pretty damn cool, but I think they need it next year for sure. I think it'll be a big boost. Again, Forge is going to be a big boost, but something official as well to go along with season 4, like Jasper was saying. At some point, I would hope it comes out before November. I would hope that Certain Affinity, that they have this big of a group of devs on it, and they've worked on Halos in the past. They've got experience. They got experience with COD as well. They know what they're doing. I would hope that they'd be able to get it out sooner, maybe at the start of season 4. That'd be a huge announcement to be able to make. So I definitely see next year for this one for sure.
Yeah, I think it'll be a big deal, right? 2023.
Yeah, 2023. Hopefully, it'll be one of those stealth drops for E3 next year.
Okay, you're saying a stealth drop for E3?
Yeah, it's ready to go. Like when they're doing the show, it's like go ahead and download it today type of thing.
It's interesting because they
unless if they're making it a separate thing. If they make it a separate app, they could market it as a separate game, like Halo Infinite Battle Royale, or like how they do with Warzone.
Right.
If they market it as a separate thing, I say they could push it up earlier. We maybe see it earlier. Like you could even show like a trailer at the Game Awards.
Right.
Yeah.
And we've heard that was going to be separate, right? We heard that it was almost going to be like a Warzone to Call of Duty.
Yeah.
That's what they're going for, that they're going to have this as a completely separate mode. If they do that, yeah, Jasper, you're spot on with that for sure.
So I got the exact quote here as well right now. He said, the biggest thing we're doing that's public right now for more than 2 years. So again, they lead into actual development insight here, how long they've been working on it. So they for more than 2 years. So what is it? That means 3 years, 2.5 years. Exactly. I don't know exactly. They've been working on Halo Infinite, doing something that they're very prescriptive about what we can say, but they're doing something unannounced, and they're doing lead development on that unannounced thing from conception and design. So this is like Certain Affinity's thing, right? I mean, they're taking the lead development on this project. They're not just assisting on things, right? They're even assisting on Hogwarts Legacy, guys. I mean, they're doing they assist on so many different games. One of the biggest go-to companies out there for assisting on big projects, right? They're doing something unannounced, and we're doing lead development on that unannounced thing from conception and design. It's something big and new for the franchise, but I can't say anything more about it. But that's our single largest project of our 3 projects currently. We have close to 100 developers working on it. So that's that for me, that's pretty exciting that you have this talented team focused on one big mode. one big thing for Halo Infinite. And I do think it could potentially be a separate install, but then at the same time, I'm wondering if they're going to use this as a gateway to get those players to try out the rest of Halo Infinite, right? So if you have Halo Infinite free to play game now with Battle Royale, you download that, then you get the Battle Royale experience, but you also have all the other stuff in there as well, right? So maybe they make it really forward facing, but use it as one of the ways to try and bring back people into Halo Infinite. Period.
Yeah, that's
you know,
tough. Like the way that works for Call of Duty is because Call of Duty, like you want to level up a gun, it's easier to level up in multiplayer than it is Warzone. So like you get people jumping back between both, where there's no real level up system
Yeah.
in Halo. Like you have shared battle pass progress, I would assume, but I mean you might as well just keep playing Warzone at that or Battle Royale mode. So like it for people who don't enjoy multiplayer and just only enjoy battle royales, they're just going to stay to that. So I don't know how much people are going to flip flop between each thing.
it's going to be an interesting thing. Will there just be like what happened with Fortnite? Fortnite Save the World came out, right? It's a big co-op experience, like go in PvE, right? And then the Battle Royale came out, and then who plays Save the World, right? I don't know. Like people only play Battle Royale Fortnite. That's what people think of when they think Fortnite now. Right? You know what I mean? I'm not saying there aren't people that play Save the World. If you're a Save the World fan, I see you, right? But I'm saying the masses play Battle Royale, and a Battle Royale is huge, right? It's huge with Call of Duty. A Warzone is massive. They're launching it on mobile.
It has to be a good one though, because like Battlefield's tried it and failed twice.
So what do you think? What would you like to see out of this? Like I have a couple thoughts, and it's interesting because I flip-flopped on this. Okay. My original thought was, oh, it's perfect. ODST, right? Because you already got the groundwork for that, and like it just makes sense. You come in from the sky, you can drop pod, you get out, you're just a regular soldier, you go and you gear up and stuff. So that would be a cool experience to make it a little bit more tactical and easier kills and stuff like that, but then at the same point, then I start thinking about, well, how much would Spartan abilities open up and the pickups and stuff open up the gameplay for Spartans, right? So there's two sides to this, and I keep flip-flopping back and forth, and I want to know what you guys rather see. Would you rather see Spartans on the battlefield, or would you rather see ODST on the battlefield?
I'm trying to think of 343 likes to tie in random lore into their multiplayer stuff. So I'm trying to think, like the current season right now is Lone Wolves, and it's like about being a lone soldier. So the way they tie it back into BR is your Spartans drop into a big map, and they're trying to like fight the best, figure out mechanics and stuff, so they can start forming a new Spartan team because all the UNSC got wiped out and stuff. So this is their way of training Spartans to work together now. This is like just story ideas. Like, so I'm assuming it's going to be Spartans, and it's them dropping into a location, fighting each other, see who has better tactics to create a new Spartan team to become the next advanced soldiers and stuff. That's kind of where I'm thinking. So I'm assuming it's going to be Spartans.
Okay. What about you, Fuzz? Would you rather do Spartan or ODST?
I was thinking originally because of the drop pods ODST, but
yeah, Spartans don't even need drop pods. They just drop down and just land on the ground, right?
Yeah.
Well, they use drop pods.
They use drop pods too, but they've also not used drop pods. I'm just saying. Pong, what do you think?
I don't know if this would work for Battle Royale. You guys can tell me if it wouldn't work. But what happens if you dropped in as an ODST, and if you earned enough through the match, you could become a Spartan at some point during the match?
It depends on what kind of Spartan you are. First off, right?
Yeah, because like Spartans have genetic engineering and like
right. No, I know. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. But it'd be kind of cool if you earned it. If you earned enough, and you could go, power up, and all of a sudden become a Spartan and have like one Spartan ability, so that you became a little bit more powerful with an advantage. Be interesting.
I think maybe you could make it to where you could use some Spartan gear potentially.
That's
Spartan
what
gear.
I was thinking. Like
Spartan gear. Okay.
But no, armor plate and your legendary shield's like a Spartan shield or something.
Sure, something like that. That would be pretty cool. No, I'd rather drop in as ODST if I was going to do this.
Yeah, for sure.
Again, I think so. I think it just fits better with the overall theme, and I think it would be awesome.
It sounds better, but I just don't see him doing that. Like I would much rather play ODST, but I think that's too much more mechanic works that they have to do and back end stuff, and it's just easier to make everyone Spartans.
Yeah. No, I got you. Speaking of ODST, though, can I add to this conversation? Joseph Staten came out on ODST's anniversary and said he'd love to do another game like ODST.
Ooh,
ODST is my favorite
please.
Halo for anybody who doesn't know.
Yeah.
That awesome. He came out on Twitter and said it. Gives me hope that if they get this train, this is down the road, I understand. But if they get Infinite right, that they branch off and do something again like ODST, I would absolutely love that. I love ODST. I think it's a freaking amazing game.
What's the multiplayer mode called that they launched with ODST?
Firefight.
Firefight. Yeah. That was their horde mode, kind of, in Halo. And they could really do some new things with that as well as an attachment to a game like that. I was in the hopes that eventually they would release Firefight in Infinite as well. With a 10-year plan, you just never count anything out like that, right?
Yeah, maybe year 4.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Year 8. Who knows, right? So I'm thinking through conceptually,
just
right?
Make it in Forge.
ODST. If you were to take ODST style and you have like nighttime style maps and stuff, and you have that chill music vibe while you're playing,
That's smooth jazz.
Oh man, it's like that. The music in
It's
ODST was
incredible.
amazing. That pistol and in that game was so fucking good too. You could have you have a little bit of PvE elements in that game as well. I think with grunts and maybe have elites and drop ships come through so you can earn points for upgrades as well, right? And you got to make that decision. Are you gonna make that attack and give away your position? You know what I mean? And for those rewards, or are you going to stealth it, right? So you also have the sniper. I mean, I think Halo is a good baseline to make a good battle royale game. But I also thought the same thing about Battlefield, and they fucked that up big time. Right? Firestorm was not fun at all, right? For me anyway. And there's maybe some fans out there. So
just bring back the superintendent in some way. I loved him. The AI.
Yeah.
ODST. I loved the superintendent. I thought he was cool as shit.
Man, it would be pretty cool, to team up 4 players too.
There's so many cool ideas, like the ODST, playing as ODSTs dropping in, and maybe the ring falling away. But I'm just coming from it from like a story perspective that I know 343 likes to do, and it's going to be like some simulation training for Spartans. I guarantee you that's what it's going to be.
Yeah, something like where they would do on the UNSC Infinity and stuff like that before, right? Like, it makes sense. And we talked about this before, and where I kind of go with the Spartan thought as well as the bonus there is because you already have the gear, you can upgrade it. They already have all that implemented with Infinite. You can pick up a grapple shot, or you can pick up a shield or whatever you want to do, right? And all those different aspects give you opportunity to have a competitive advantage in a firefight in a situation. And ODST troopers aren't necessarily supposed to have access to that gear, right? So lore wise, they would have to do some trickery stuff there. Right?
I think this is actually probably the hardest BR to make for any game, because if you do vehicles, it just ruins it. If you do you have all these
you got a Scorpion tank in there, it's fucked. You know what I mean?
And it's like, do you put on sprint if it's a large map? Do you take off sprint? There's so many aspects of Halo that have evolved over the years. Which do they take? And there's so many people that I don't like sprint. I like sprint. I don't like mantling. I like mantling. It's what do they take and put in the BR for people to be happy?
Do they give us the grapple?
Yeah, I don't know, because then the movement is
right.
I mean, you can pretty much fly around Halo Infinite like Spider-Man, right?
Yeah,
right.
And if you just got that off the bat and could do that in the battle royale mode, and you're the only one, that's so OP. You know what I mean? So you would have to have maybe they introduce loadouts into battle royale, and that is a possibility. Who knows? They have that in Warzone. You can call in a loadout drop.
I guess it works for the multiplayer now, so I guess it could work on larger scale. But
yeah, it's true. Buzz, do you think a battle royale in Halo has potential? Do you think it could be something that would grab the masses like Call of Duty has, and things like that?
I think it can. It's just kind of like what Jasper's saying. It's hard to please the current Halo audience. I think, and this is going to probably sound weird, more so with me being less of a Halo player in comparison. I think the battle royale needs to appeal to those that are already into other battle royales and may not be Halo fans in general. So going with something completely different from their normal lore as far as weaponry or loadouts and such might be the right approach. Like, I almost feel like that's, I won't say the Hail Mary, but that's like the one,
Yeah.
okay, you're not a Halo fan. Here's something that's more of like what you're used to, but with a Halo spin on it kind of thing. And I think that will, attract more of the masses. I
Because
think
that was the argument when the game was first being teased. It was like there was a lot of the Halo community didn't want to BR. The people outside the Halo community wanted to BR for Halo.
exactly.
So it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, unless you create two type of battle royales, but then you're once again segmenting
Yeah.
your
I think you got to
potential
focus on
audience, and
one thing,
it-
right?
yeah. So I don't know. I almost I would rather see it where you either start off with like the what do you call it, the sword, or just start off with melee, you find weapons, you get the control points, kind of like the stuff that they had hinted to, and then that's when you're able to get energy weapons or something along those lines. But yeah, I think they're going to have to do something a little different than your Apex Legends or your Fortnites to kind of differentiate
You
themselves.
can't start out with a pistol. That's the best gun in the game. So you have to start with like a plasma pistol.
Oh, plasma
Yeah,
pistol
so
start,
it's-
man, that'd be brutal, dude. Oh my god.
Because you're never dropping a gun at that point.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a tough one. I honestly think they have to go with something a little different than what the Halo community would probably want, and I think that will
Ooh.
at least give them that third approach where you can attract people that aren't into Halo currently.
So
Yeah.
one thing I think it's also leads to Spartans though is because they already have all the mechanisms of cosmetics built in for Spartans. So like
Yeah,
it would
that's
make
what I was-
yeah, you're right there, Jasper. But what if just hear me out. You meet you both worlds, you kind of have something different, right?
Mhm.
You don't, and you can have an upgrade path here that makes sense. You do elites.
Fucking hell, you're smoking something tonight.
You play as elites, right? You play as like a segmented group of a faction of elites that have gone rogue, and you're all like you're having this battle within each other and stuff. And
Do you remember
I
when
don't know.
Infinite was first come out? They asked, "Are we gonna have playable elites?" And 3-4's like, "No."
You're right. But maybe the battle royale is all elites. You get to kill each other as aliens.
I think the biggest thing is Certain Affinity just has to do what they want to do here.
Yes.
They've got to go against the grain that 343's fallen into by trying to make the community entirely happy and going back and forth and maybe not doing things that they would have done for fear of the community. Certain Affinity has to come in with a fresh slate. Sure, it has to make sense. It has to fit into Infinite. I get all that. But they have to do the game mode that they want to do because these guys aren't rookies, okay? These guys have made some amazing things on other games, and they just have to come in and do the battle royale that they envision, make it make sense with Infinite, like Jasper's talking about, but just do the game mode they want to do. And if the community wants to blow up and say, "Oh my God, this is not Halo, this is the worst thing," too bad, so sad. They have to come in and just make it happen. And like to Fuzzy's point, if they know it's fun, if they know it's great, and if they know the part of the Halo community, which is always going to happen no matter what, if they're going to be unhappy, so what? If it is more appealing to the masses, if it is something that they think that they've nailed, just go with it and make it happen. Certain Affinity has to trust themselves, and Microsoft and Xbox have to give the green light to them to do what they want to do with this. For the most part, again, it's got to make sense, but it's still got to be their game.
Right, 100%. Anybody else got anything to add on Halo BR? I mean, I'm gonna get to the results of the poll here real quick. I put out there the poll of would you rather play as an ODST and a Spartan? Okay, 58% went with Spartan. So a lot of Spartan fans out there.
Also, one thing to add to that, the player count is going to be so tough because with desync right now, just with 8 people, that's going to be ooh.
What's the player count on the big team right now? Is it 30?
24, I think.
Oh, 20, it's only 24. I thought it was 32. That's 24. Okay, so maybe they do. Yeah, it is because it used to be 8 versus 8, right?
Because they're using the same engine and everything, I assume. So They're using a lot of the Halo Infinite code, I would assume, also.
But they're taking this from concept, lead design, everything. So I'm wondering if they can make something that isn't going to have as many issues, right? I don't know,
Yeah.
right?
Maybe they keep people on for 2 years too, so they don't have to keep.
They are
people.
the multiplayer masters as well, right? So you got Max Holberman there, pretty much designed the multiplayer infrastructure that a lot of games run on these days. Like it's maybe there's just hope there that they could get that on track, right? So I have a lot of faith in this game and this whatever this is. I want to see it. Obviously, I want to try it and play it. I am a fan of battle royale genre. Period. Right. I played a shit ton of Fortnite. I like Fortnite. I like Warzone. Only thing that keeps me from playing Warzone now is the fact that there's hacks and cheaters that play. And when you're playing a battle royale and you get to the final four and you get killed by a guy that shoots a pistol across the map, automatic headshot, like from 1,000 yards away, and they win the game that way, and you see it on the kill cam, that's just like kills the game for you, right? So, but I have hope for this. And the other key aspect to it, what's going to make it special, is the map. They have to absolutely nail the map, right? The Halo, you can't have some bland ass boring map out there. You got to go all out on this.
They should just do like the Warzone strategy where you put famous Halo maps in the battle royale, like have Blood Gulch and have a tunnel connected to like Avalanche or something. It's just like,
yeah. So yeah, we'll move on from that, guys. But yeah, Halo BR, I'm excited for it. I think that Certain Affinities, them taking the lead on it, and I think it'll be next year. And I think it'll be a surprise. I think Fuzzy's onto something. Like we'll get the announcement at E3 because it's a pretty big damn deal, you know.
Yeah.
And we'll get that, and maybe it'll be like September, right? Something like that for like season. What should we be on at that point? Like 6?
No.
3 is November. No, wait, sorry. 3 is March. Shit.
Yeah, we'll be on.
So
4
May, if March, then like June should be 5. Yeah, June should be 5. So like around September should be 6.
Well, no,
March,
4 should be June
6.
Because if the third season's in March, you got 3 months. Then season 4 would start.
Oh,
in June.
so 5, right? Yeah, season 5. So maybe we'll see it around season 5. If not, then season 6. That's my guess.
If seasons are 3 months,
if they get to seasonality by then, right? That's the hope. All right, guys. Guess what? Satya, this battle continues, right? Let us have competition, Satya says with a big smile on his face. Talking about the Activision Blizzard acquisition with Bloomberg in an interview. He seemed to think that, hey, this deal's going to go through. But also kind of threw some like interesting comments. He's like, hey, you know, we think it's going to go through. But if this is about competition, because Sony's went out there and since we've announced this deal, they went out and acquired 3 or 4 other. They went out and acquired 3 or 4 other studios, and they're number 1 in the space. We're like number 4 or 5, depending on how you count, is what he said. If this is about competition, let us have competition. What does he mean by that exactly? Because I see some people being like, well, $70 billion can't be compared to what Sony acquired, right? So what does he mean by let us have competition? You think it's a direct shade at the regulators or Sony themselves?
A bit of both. It's just one of those things where now Sony's already cried out to anybody that would listen, as far as they feel that it would be a detriment to their gamers or to gaming in general if this company is allowed to acquire Activision. But it's, on the flip side of things, Sony's been the ones that have been kind of blocking content from other platforms and, making acquisitions that, they're within their budget. And sure, they may not be a $70 billion, acquisition, but it's still something that they're outside of the whole Bungie deal, which Bungie is kind of that unicorn in the industry. They've definitely locked down behind, closed doors as far as their IPs and things moving forward. So the competition aspect is, we tried Sony's old game of just make the console, make the games, and it never seemed to favor us because we're not about locking content for X amount of years behind our platform type of deal. Or when we do, everybody calls us out because they remember Big Bad Microsoft from the 90s. But, at least let us, approach our way of competing with them with having, our platform or our material or our content available on multiple platforms. So that way it's accessible to, more gamers and such. But I don't know. I think Jim Ryan now kind of realizes that he may have put his foot in his mouth, and now that Satya is on a deal, I'm curious to see if Jim Ryan makes another comment to the press or whatever, because it just seems like that was kind of like, all right, you want to keep running your mouth, all right, we're paying attention now, we're listening. You may have tried to just get the regulators to listen, but we're listening, and we're going to show or expose all the dirty dealings that you put in your contracts. I mean, remember, they have copies of the contracts from Sony with Bethesda, and I'm pretty sure they've had communications with other third parties on Sony's dealings on blocking content from Xbox or just other platforms in general. So it's now going to be about competition, and they're going to put their business out there as far as what Sony's been doing, and showing that we're trying to do things along those lines, but Sony is the ones that are kind of in the driver's seat and dictating what they do and what others can't do, type of thing.
Right.
He's gonna start sending out checkbooks to all his Xbox leads and say, hey, go out to whatever studios offering exclusives from, just go out, offer more money. Just pay him $100,000 more. We don't care. We got plenty of money. Just we getting all these exclusives now. You want Call of Duty content? We got it. You want Final Fantasy? We got it now. Just like we're gonna start seeing deals 5 years from now. Xbox exclusive content.
Right. I think Satya is kind of like getting. It seems like almost came across like he's getting annoyed by this whole situation with the regulators and stuff. You know what I mean? Like what I took from it was like, if I'm like looking at this deal and Satya is this much behind it, speaking like that, this is gonna happen. I mean, he's the CEO of Microsoft. Like one way or another, this is getting done, right? They're not gonna let some regulator agency in the UK or Sony, because of one gaming franchise, shut down a $70 billion acquisition, right? And an industry that they're not even close to number one in, right? Pong, did you take it as more of like a backing from Satya, like he's all in on this, or you think he's just frustrated?
No, he's definitely, we've known he's been all in on this since the beginning. Again, you don't go make the biggest deal in history for Microsoft as a almost $2 trillion company. This is your biggest investment ever. You don't do that unless you're all in. Satya is just reaffirming, and that was a backhanded slap towards the CMA, because the CMA's whole talking points were all about competition. Again, you don't get to willy-nilly make up rules about how businesses are competing. Innovation is competition. It makes the other competitors, your main competitors, rethink how they're doing business. You don't say, well, Sony set the rules, so Microsoft has to follow those same rules. So if they want to go buy exclusive deals and do timed exclusivity, and they want to go do, that's what they can do. But they can't do this other stuff because Sony just doesn't have the money as the same level as Microsoft. You don't get to say that. That's not how business works. So just because Xbox has a bigger parent company behind them doesn't mean that they don't get to go do what they're capable of doing, unless it starts to infringe upon the monopoly rules and that kind of stuff out there. So all Satya is saying to the CMA, look, your whole statements, all your statements in that were simply about competition. Well, if you want to get down to the numbers, we're number 4 or number 5, depending on how you want to slice it. So we're just going to do what we're going to go do to make ourselves competitive. And that means, yes, we can gun for the number 1 spot. We don't have to be satisfied to be below number 1. We are allowed to try to take the top spot away from your fan favorite Sony. That's just how it works. That's how business is. It's no different. Anything else? Again, sports analogies are always the easiest to go to. You don't get to go to say to other teams, well, it's not fair that this team doesn't get to draft this guy, so you can't go buy a free agent too because you got a better draft pick. That's not how this plays out anywhere. So Satya is simply restating again. Satya is the head of Microsoft. Is he a gamer? No, he's not a gamer. Right? Jim Ryan's not a gamer either. He's a numbers guy. Satya is the head of Microsoft. His job is not to be a gamer, but his job is to support the investments that he's making on behalf of the board and of the company as a whole and all the investors out there that have stock. That's what he's there to do. That's what he did today. And of course he's going to be confident. He's not going to come out and say, well, the deal looks like it's it's a rough spot. I don't know if we're going to get this to go through. He's not going to say that. Of course he's going to put on an air of confidence, but I've said from the beginning, they have a right to be confident. This isn't the first rodeo for Microsoft. This might be the biggest rodeo they've ever been in, but it's not the first one. They have $1 million attorneys to go handle this stuff. They've dealt with the worldwide regulatory bodies in different areas for decades now. They know exactly how this game is played. And Satya knows at the end of the day, behind the scenes, as they work through this deal, as they educate the regulatory bodies, this deal is going to go through. There's no reason to stop it. So he's just putting up notice that once again, you may not like that we're changing the rules. You may not like that Sony now all of a sudden has to change the way that they do business, but that doesn't matter. That's innovation. That's thinking outside the box. That's saying, hey, we tried it your way. We didn't get very far. So we created a whole new way to do business in this industry. And we think from our standpoint, the way that we're going to do business is going to make it more accessible to more consumers. It's going to make it more friendly. It's going to make it cheaper. All of that stuff. We think this is a benefit how we're doing it. We think the old way sucks and we're not going to play by those same rules anymore. And Sony can tag along. Sony can follow suit. Sony can do their own version of all of what we're doing. But we can have the number one spot at the end of the day. You can't stop us from doing that just because we got a bigger bank account. So it was a great move by Satya. He put it down. And again, all the people, the discourse on the internet and Twitter and whatever else, the clown show that just seems to say, well, we didn't want him to compete this way. Yeah, you don't get to decide that. You don't get to have arbitrary rules in business. Like, yeah, this isn't fair because our favorite company just isn't the same, isn't as big. That's not how this works.
Not like
Big
this.
Bad Bear woke up. They came out of hibernation. They decided to go fishing. Guess what? Just because you're on the smaller bear team and the bigger bear can come along and take more fish doesn't make it unfair. That's just the rules of life, people. That's how it's going to work. Microsoft's no different. Again, unless they encroach upon certain laws and certain rules where monopoly is a thing, but we already know that's not even close to this. That's how it's going to play out. Microsoft can come and take what they want right now. It's no different. You can't expect them to build studios from the ground up in 2022 when there's a shortage of dev talent out there. And all of a sudden, then you'd be talking about, why is it taking so long for games to come out? Why is it Look, they're going and doing what they can do. At the end of the day, they own the studio. Whether they build the studio or they go buy the studio, they own the studio. And those studios are there to make games. And they're paying the talent to do that job, no matter which way you dice it. So Satya came out like a king, like he should have, and just put on that smirk. The best part was the smile.
Yeah.
Right. That's something out of Satya. That wasn't acted. That wasn't just a part of his job as CEO. We've seen him give talks before where he doesn't smile, where he's dead serious. He gave that smirk at the end, knowing full well, look, you guys can't stop us. This is what it's about.
Yeah.
You don't have to grow things organically.
No, you don't. Not in business. That's not a rule, Fuzzy. That's not some rule in place. You can only grow your own homegrown talent, and that's the only way you can be successful. My God.
Yeah.
Just gonna start signing an exclusive partnership with Embracer. Only Embracer games come to Xbox. That would hurt.
Right.
It's gonna be really interesting to see like how this goes down. I think Satya's got the back of this deal, and that alone makes me think that no matter what, this is gonna go down. They could bully it through like Amazon did as well. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of avenues they could take, and I think they're going to not let this get stopped or whatever. And that's kind of what I took most from it. And he's ready to compete, and that just means that he's ready to put all in on this. One other thing, real quick. I'm going to ask you to take over for a minute, Pong, because I got to make a phone call real quick. But one other thing I want to address with this whole situation is, like, a lot of people have even forgotten the fact when they're talking about this, because seeing this ad taken out of context, and the fact that, oh, well, Microsoft, this is going to be bad for the industry. It's going to be bad for all these different things. People forget about the alternatives.
Mm-hmm.
That would have been all this is public information that has been out there about the companies that they don't say the names of the companies, but there's been like A, B, C, and D companies. They were shopping themselves, right? They were looking for a deal. Activision Blizzard was. They were going to make a deal with somebody at some point, right? So if they didn't, then that was really bad for them as well. They were self-imploding, right? So you look at all these different things. People forget about the alternative things that could have happened with this, and they also forget about what's best for the actual people at Activision Blizzard, and what's best for Activision Blizzard and themselves as well, right? And everybody's screaming about possibly losing a game franchise on your platform in 7 years, when that company is actively making that happen on other platforms all the time. It is nothing to cry about, and it's ridiculous for that to be the sole focus of a $70 billion acquisition that has much more ramifications than something so stupid as that. And I think that's what Satya is coming at, is like, this is asinine. However, they got to look at it. It's a $70 billion deal, but they're talking about not being competitive when they're number one, saying, let us have an opportunity. And if we have to go and buy a $70 billion company to try and get up there to where we have to go and compete with Sony, we're going to do it. And that's what they're doing. Take over from me, Pong. After this, get Logitech G Cloud. I want to talk a little bit about that too. But I got to.
So you kind of want to go into the alternatives here of what could have happened then?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, cool. All right. Yeah, so to Matt's point, people do forget not only what. Not only
look
just
at Atari. Atari was at the top of the game back in the day, and
Sega.
then out of nobody.
Sega got demolished, right? Sega was no longer there. But that's what could have happened here. And people, again, like to Matt's point, Tencent's getting serious, folks. If you didn't know, Sean Layden has now joined Tencent. Okay, they're getting serious. So, when they launch a Chinese-backed console and they're looking to make a big splash, would you like them to have locked up Call of Duty and you have to go buy a Chinese-backed system in order to play Call of Duty? Would you like that? Would you like to only be able to play Call of Duty on Luna? How about that move right there from Amazon, right? Or how about this? How about worst case scenario? ABK folds. ABK's house of cards come crumbling down because they already said it wasn't sustainable what they were doing. All of a sudden, they got to have a fire sale. And all of a sudden, devs are losing their jobs. They're closing studios. They're selling off studios. Is that what everybody would rather have at the end of the day? Again, Arcane, ZeniMax. Without the purchase of ZeniMax, Arcane could have been possibly closed down. They were not a profitable studio to a corporation in ZeniMax that had to answer to a board of private investors, because they were a private company, that weren't happy with the direction of things were going as far as money goes. Arcane games critically acclaimed, but never sold well. So, Jasper, let's start with you. When you look at this, to Mav's point, worst case scenario without these deals, right? This is kind of a lifeline from Microsoft and Xbox to a lot of these places. And again, ABK is huge. It wouldn't have been overnight that they would have folded shop, but they were on their way down, and they would have gotten very juicy at one point to a lot of different takeovers out there, including Tencent, Amazon, etc. So you look at it the same way, Jasper, that this was kind of a lifeline in a lot of ways, and that we got the best case scenario here?
If no one bought Activision, eventually a lot of these studios would either sell off or just fall apart and just go into bankruptcy, and they just be gone. Like, and if that's the case, then you may never be, if all the people looking at Call of Duty, you may never get a Call of Duty again. I mean, that's just the end of the day. That's what could happen if no one bought them. And then for Blizzard, I think Blizzard probably could have survived. They would have just broke off and been like, hey, we're our own thing now, or whatever. I think they would have been all right. Same for King. I think King would have broke off, been all right. But you're only going to have those major successors in that Activision, under the Activision, that breaks off and still around at the end of the day. Like, but Toys for Bob, they're dead. Raven is probably dead at the end of the day for that. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just where it's at.
No, and I agree. Again, the writing was on the wall for a lot of these places. And Fuzzy, we've seen this in the past, like Jasper brought up. We've seen some of the biggest companies, Sega, Atari, go through moments in history where there was no Microsoft Xbox to come save them, that there was no alternative, that Sega had to get out of the console business in order to survive and become a third-party publisher. They could not sustain their console business. We've seen this throughout the history of video games. We just so happen to be at a point in time now where the industry is beyond healthy. And again, a lot of people are expecting a crash at some point, some contraction at some point. Sure, we could eventually see that the industry gets so big. But right now, it's in a healthy state. And it's in such a healthy state that you've got all these different places coming in. People outside the industry showing up at the doorsteps wanting to invest in this industry, the biggest entertainment industry in the world right now. And we're seeing a lot of that. We saw Embracer Group come out of nowhere, come out of the shadows, and now become one of the biggest players. So that's the state of the industry right now. But Fuzzy, and from your perspective, is this the best case scenario? Or do you think that there was another scenario that might be better? Or do you think that, are you on the side that says, hey, you let people fail when they fail? That's part of the industry as well. If ABK's got to crash, it's got to crash and burn. I don't want to see Microsoft and Xbox become even bigger than they already are. Where are you at with this, folks?
For me, I look at it as, given the issues, whether it be the publicity or just the PR stuff that was, or HR stuff that was the issue within ABK itself, it was definitely in a bad spot for both the overall branding, but also the employees, the probably the most important part of the whole deal. And looking at the alternatives, sure, they could have found another buyer. Would it have been as, I guess, accessible? Probably not, especially considering, I don't, as much as Sony fans might want to believe that Sony could have swooped in and saved them, they don't have the liquid assets. It would have been a much tougher acquisition attempt, where they would more than likely have to partner with possibly a third party to even be able to clear that deal. They have a tremendous amount of debt because of some of their other divisions that haven't been as successful. But somebody like an Amazon or Google, before they got scared out of the industry with Microsoft buying ZeniMax and not realizing that $7 billion is kind of like the standard fare to kind of dip your toe into this pool type of deal. Amazon could have definitely swooped in, and it would have been an exclusive on Luna, or at least early access stuff would be streaming only type of thing. And I don't think that would have really went over as well as people may want to believe it would have gone. I think it would have pretty much hit like a ton of bricks. And I'm not saying that would kill the franchise, but that would definitely hurt the overall, I guess, persona behind Call of Duty in itself. But I think the grand scheme of things is, if some other buyer didn't step up, it would have been, like you said, a fire sale. Now, contrary to the whole deal, I still think Microsoft would have probably benefited from the fire sale aspect.
Sure, they would have been bidden.
Yeah, I mean, sure, a lot of devs would have had to have changed jobs, relocated, and so forth. But I think a lot of that IP that would have gone up for sale, or some of the studio licensing and whatnot, Microsoft would have probably still been able to buy it on the cheap, pennies on the dollar, and wouldn't have had as much oversight as far as from regulators. I don't know if that's the way you want to come in, where you're kind of cleaning up, the stuff after everything is kind of burned to the ground type of deal. But they would have more than likely owned the Call of Duty license. Like, that's another one of those that would have probably gone for, upwards of 20 billion. And once again, does Sony have 20 billion in pocket? No, they would have to have done a loan type of deal, or they would have had to skip out on Bungie or something along those lines. But I think people need to take a step back, aside from their console or platform preference, look at the bigger picture of the industry, and knowing that, much like whether you're on the side of bailout or non-bailout for like what happened in 2008, it's one of those things where once a big portion of the industry does fail, it does have, you know, a domino effect within the industry. So it may not be, you know, visible right on the surface, but when you have one major publisher fall, well, now you have less jobs out there for more dev talent that's out there, and it's going to be one of those things where you may see a lot of, you know, musical chairs as far as people moving around. It may also create a bit of distraction while one new IP tries to step up to kind of fit that vacuum or fit that gap, while others are you know, not necessarily struggling, but also trying to spread themselves a bit thinner, trying to focus on what they would normally focus on. But I think overall, Microsoft coming in was probably the best fit as far as what we could see. And look at like the next thing I guess we're going to talk about with the whole, you know, Logitech thing.
Yep.
Tencent's invested in that. So
Yes.
I think Tencent is already knocking at the door. I mean, sure, this thing is marketed as, oh, it's the X Cloud and streaming system for like the what do you call them, the Nvidia Shield and Steam streaming and stuff like that. But if Tencent has some financial backing in this, you best believe they're working on an app to put on there as well. And that's just a
absolutely.
matter of time. So
That's also like hard, not to get like too political, but if China does something like what Russia's doing, like we wouldn't even have like, we're not going to get some stuff. And Tencent's putting money in everywhere, so we could lose a lot of content if China
Correct.
does something stupid.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. No, and I think you were right, Fuzzy, for bringing in the human element as well. And that was kind of what I was saying too, with the closing of studios or people loss of job, but just the HR situation. There's only so many companies on the top, you know, off the top of the head that could absorb something like an Activision Blizzard, right? There's only so many that could take on that and try to keep as many of the jobs as possible. And Microsoft is one of the few companies, I think even if like a Tencent were to make that type of acquisition, that they would consolidate a lot, that they would be closing down a lot and kind of trimming the fat. That's again what I was talking about with the ZeniMax deal. Had somebody else bought ZeniMax, there's still potential that an Arcane might not have been appreciated the way that it was by Microsoft and Xbox and kept around. Somebody could have come in and said, yep, you're not very profitable, kind of like Square Enix did, you know, obviously with Crystal Dynamics and Eidos Montreal, and said, yeah, you guys make great games, but the numbers, man, the numbers just ain't where they need to be. We're going to have to, you know, disperse you amongst the other studios, and we're shuttering Arcane down. So I think that, again, the fact that there is an umbrella like Microsoft and Xbox with a head like Phil Spencer, who understands the gaming industry, who appreciates the gaming industry as a gamer himself, and can look at things like an Arcane situation or look at an ABK situation with the HR absolute nightmare going on over there, and take into account the human aspect and say, no, we are going to do our best to clean up, or we're going to do our best to keep everybody on board that we possibly can and make things right. And the fact that there is an umbrella like that, I think, is underappreciated by a lot of people who only look at it as, hey, this is Xbox versus a PlayStation. I hate Xbox, so I don't want this stuff to happen. Look, when you take a step back, there is so much worse that could happen at the end of the day for these places at a human level, not just talking about the IP, but at a human level, that I don't think you would want to wish on anybody close to you, that you'd never want anybody to have to go through that situation. And so I think that this is
It's what, 10,000 people?
Yeah.
So yeah,
10,000
you're
plus.
like, not all of those are going to be able to find jobs. Like, there's not enough studios out there to cover that many people right now. So there's going to be probably at least half of them are out of a job that we're going to have to find something else.
Yeah, correct. It would be an awful, awful situation. So, Fuzzy, you kind of transitioned there as well with the Logitech G Cloud, which was what the next topic Mav wanted to hit up. So, for anybody who has not been paying attention this week, that's right, we've got a new handheld coming to the market. And this is the Logitech G Cloud handheld, which we had heard, as Fuzzy stated, was backed by Tencent as well. But Microsoft got in the mix too. And Mav and I talked about this with Jez last night, so I'll bring that into this as well. But I want to read from Xbox Wire here real quick. Since we are an Xbox show, we'll keep it on the Xbox side. Xbox obviously went in partnership to make sure that this device was going to be compatible for xCloud and Game Pass apps, and that's exactly what happened here. So The Xbox Wire article reads, at Xbox, we are always looking to make gaming available to more people in more ways. Since launching xCloud Gaming Beta 2 years ago, we continue to expand device support, bringing Halo Infinite to entry-level PCs, Forza Horizon 5 to iOS phones and tablets, Microsoft Flight Simulator to Xbox One, and hundreds of games to even more devices like 2022 Samsung Smart TVs. As we look ahead, we will continue to meet people on the devices they already own, breaking down barriers of entry to play. So today, we are announcing that Xbox Cloud Gaming will be available in more places with the Logitech G Cloud Gaming handheld when it launches in North America on October 17th. Soon you'll be able to play Grounded and Sea of Thieves or discover your next favorite game right in the palm of your hands using the power of the cloud on an all-new device. Handhelds are a natural next step in our cloud gaming evolution, and it's great to see a world-class hardware leader like Logitech optimize Xbox Cloud Gaming for their new device. You can jump right in with ease anywhere you are and take advantage of a 16:9 full-screen display with extended battery life, built-in Wi-Fi, and ergonomic controls. The Logitech G Cloud will allow you to progress through campaigns or get online for a multiplayer session where it's most convenient for you. Getting started is easy once you boot up your Logitech G Cloud. You'll see the Xbox Cloud Gaming shortcut pinned right to your home screen. You can play hundreds of high-quality titles with an Xbox Game Pass Ultimate membership, including new games on day one from Xbox Game Studios and Bethesda, as well as the fantastic titles from our partners such as The Gunk, Power Wash Simulator, and Tunic. You can also play Fortnite with your friends for free. No Game Pass subscription required. Additionally, we worked with Logitech to enable our remote play feature, also pinned as a shortcut to the home screen. Remote play differs from xCloud Gaming by letting you stream your full Xbox library, going beyond titles in Xbox Game Pass from your personal Xbox console to phones, tablets, and now handhelds. So, for anybody else who wants a little bit more detail, this is an Android-based device. Jez put it correctly. This is basically an Android tablet in your hands. And that's where the price point comes in. Because it's Android-based, it's coming out at $349 is one of the main reasons. $349.99, $350. You can get it on sale right now if you pre-order through Amazon for $299.99. Introductory price, $300. Woo-wee. Okay, so obviously Xbox wants you to play wherever you can, Fuzzy. But at that price point, you know, Jez, when we talked about it with him last night, you know, he thought that Microsoft is using this kind of as a testing ground for maybe their own device down the road, because Jez put out an interesting tweet yesterday, paraphrasing him, but he said that really the only company that could do this at a reduced price point would be Microsoft and Xbox if they came out with their own cloud-based handheld and they took out the Android part of it, and because they could obviously reduce the cost by taking out the Android and also cover part of the cost obviously through subscription service, Game Pass, you know, the games that people are purchasing, obviously. Mm-hmm. So he thinks that they could come out with their own device eventually as well. And he knows for a fact that they've done some internal stuff. He doesn't know how far along it's ever gotten, if it's actually gotten to prototype, or if it's just been the basic upfront stuff, investigating, doing some, you know, tech specs, some write-ups. But Fuzzy, for you, number one, does the Logitech G Cloud have any, you know, any kind of appeal to you, price point wise or otherwise? And do you think Microsoft before the end of this generation does do their own handheld at some point?
It definitely has some appeal, but just not at that price point. As someone that owns the Steam Deck, about the big thing with that, xCloud through their like Edge app that's, you know, gaming compatible, installed on the Steam Deck, feels almost like a native app, at least on my home Wi-Fi. So I can imagine that it's going to be a similar experience as far as Game Pass being on this device. The big advantage that this has, although I can do it on my Steam Deck, I haven't gone through the hassle of coding in some of putting in some of the line code as far as for the remote play. But the remote play aspect is huge. So that way it's like, okay, wife is watching TV in the room where the Xbox is currently. I rather continue playing the Division. Okay, I can just go to that device and go ahead and do that. The Steam Deck being, or at least the one I got was like in the 500 plus range, but it has so much more to it where you have games on there natively as well as XCloud or, Game Pass and stuff like that. But I think this device, had it come in at 200, I would have already had it pre-ordered. Yeah, that's still a bit pricier than what I think that object should be for what it's doing. But at 200, it's a reasonable enough alternative. Like I'm not the biggest a fan of using my phone anymore. Like I do have the Razer Kishi thing that I've used with my phone, but it just maybe it's because I keep on well, nowadays I buy a smaller phone than what I used to buy. I don't need a mini tablet in my pocket type of deal. But I think this has a definite place. And if Microsoft were to make their own, where it is kind of a subsidized thing, where it comes in at a price point somewhere between the 150 to 200 range, give or take, I think that would be the sweet spot to get more people on board. This product at 300 to 350, I think it's going to sell. I don't think it's going to sell like Switch numbers, but I think it's going to sell well enough where hopefully this will encourage more hardware companies to get involved, and having that competition will hopefully, drive the price down, and then Microsoft could either partner or swoop in and, have their hardware and whatnot, and go in with like, oh, get it at $199 with 6 months of Game Pass or something like that, or do the all access deal where basically what like more than like I guess $5 more a month than what you would pay for a Game Pass Ultimate, you can get this device along with that type of thing. So
right.
I think that those types of approaches I think will be the winning approach. Otherwise, I always kind of wondered, because Steam said way back at the launch of the Steam Deck that they're willing to have that as not really open source, but kind of like an open platform, to the point where if others want to come in and make a similar device using their schematics, they can. So I could kind of see Xbox going kind of in between a full-on streaming only type of device and something that could possibly play, like, let's say Xbox One games natively or something along those lines. I don't think you're going to be able to really swing current gen stuff on it natively. I mean, unless it's basically a portable Series S, but even then I think that price point still probably pushes it into the $400 price point accordingly. But it's interesting, just not in my budget at the moment. Maybe next year, holiday sales, Black Friday or Cyber Monday or whatever, maybe it's at 200 or less at that point, and maybe I pick it up at that point. But right now, it's a pass or a wait and see kind of thing for the price to drop.
Yeah, and I think that's where a lot of people are. I think a lot of people said, and we were in our DMs, $199 would be the sweet spot. I think it would really be for a cloud only based. Go ahead, Jasper.
I think there's a major problem that people are kind of like overlooking because they just kind of become used to it. Like your phone, the reason you have internet on your phone, like when you're out of nowhere, is because you have a phone service. You get LTE and like 5G and all that stuff. This doesn't have that. So you have to have a Wi-Fi connection. If you're on a train playing a game, you can't use this device because you have no internet. So I think people are just kind of thinking it's kind of like just a phone for games, and it's not. So I think people need to really look into this device before they buy it and make sure they have it. It's has a perfect scenario for them. Because for me, I have a PC in my house, I have an Xbox in my house, so that's where I'm going to play my game. It's a better experience. It's just.
But to be fair, Jasper, right? The Switch is in the same situation, right? It doesn't have internet.
You play those games natively in their single player. You don't need a connection.
Yeah, you don't need for the native, correct? And chances are you're going to be able to download some games, right? On this, some smaller games.
You're going to be able to download Android games.
Android games. Okay, so that's where you're going to be based. But yeah, no,
a lot of those mobile games too require internet now. So like, what mobile phone game doesn't need internet to sign in?
Yeah,
Candy Crush.
I can't think of one.
No, I think the audience for this, to me, and I could be completely wrong, but the audience to me is going to be very small. And again, Jez believes that they're not going to produce a lot. They're only releasing it in America, and I can't remember where else first.
Psycho, like you said, you can use your phone's hotspot, but at that point, why not just use your phone?
Right.
Like, because like I have like a $20 clip. If I want to really play a phone game, I just clip this thing onto my phone and then clip an Xbox controller into it.
Right.
It's the same thing as this device, but just a little heavier. So
Yeah.
like the situation is so small for people for this device.
It's a convenience factor. I think it is a test bed right now, and I think it's a test bed for Tencent as well. I think that's why they're involved in this, just to try to see. But I do think that this is going to be a testing ground to see what the audience looks like and maybe what they could do to get it down cheaper to a magic price point where people start actually picking it up. Because like you said, it is going to be more of a convenience thing, Jasper. And I think Mav will talk about this here in a second as well, because that's his point for him personally, his phone being used for business, and I'll let him talk about that. This kind of gives him a better option. And since he doesn't want to mess around so much with the Steam Deck. So I'll let him talk on it though. But Mav, this is obviously Microsoft expanding their accessibility, as they stated in the Xbox Wire article. They're looking at this heavily. The more places they can get xCloud, Game Pass, whatever the case may be, their ecosystem, the better for them. And again, that's why we see them, moving to TVs and having an app on there. This is the future, right? We all know this. We talked about this a billion times.
Get it on every device you can.
Every device you can, right? Even stuff that may not have the biggest audience in the world, it doesn't matter. If it's available and you get somebody
Minecraft
locked in,
is available on like a Kindle or some shit. So it's like
right. You can get, if you get somebody into the ecosystem and they enjoy it, even if it's on a device that eventually just stop being made, the chances are they're going to go look for your ecosystem elsewhere. They might become a lifelonger, right? That's what Microsoft is doing right now. For you, Matt, go ahead and explain your situation, why this device appeals to you, even at this price point, from your perspective, as somebody who does have a phone, who has a Razer Kishi, just like me, and somebody who has a Steam Deck as well. But for you, why is this appealing?
Yeah, so first off, I do want to say I do think it's a high price point, right?
Yeah.
But because of the nature of this device in itself, that's what we're going to get, because it's made by a third party. It's not made by Microsoft. It's not made by Valve, right? It's not made by Google, right? And the people that are profiting off the services that this device is going to be providing, it's not Logitech. Logitech's got to make money on the sales of this device, right? So this device is not like in a traditional like model of like, hey, we're gonna put this out there at cost or a loss, and then we're gonna make money on the back end. They got to make money on the sales of the device, right? Mm-hmm. Therefore, it's not going to have the mass appeal necessarily that other devices that are cheaper necessarily would, that could be potentially come later from first party as well. So that's one of the reasons why it's priced the way it is. And I'm personally, I get why that is the case. So then I look at comparisons, and Jez was saying he kind of compares it to a tablet, right? Which a tablet, unless you pay extra for broadband on a tablet, is the same situation. You take a lot of people use tablets on all those trains and all these different places as well, and they don't necessarily have connections, and they use hotspots for that too, right? It's not a big thing. Like my daughter in the back seat of our car, I turn a hotspot on my phone. She uses the tablet, right? My wife does too, right? So that she is able to play online games in the car. Or she's able to watch Netflix or YouTube or whatever while we have hotspot on. So I would imagine that that's another case. Now, I get the whole thing for, hey, if you have a phone, what's the point, right? Because guess what? Our phones are more powerful than this thing these days. If you have a new phone, right, a brand new one these days, like if you have like a Samsung Galaxy 20,
this is like 2019, 2020 phone, technology wise.
As far, it's still better than the Switch, right? It's not like 2016 or technology here. So it does have some interesting things where it's got to find a market, right? So here's the reason why I'm interested in this. Okay, now maybe I'm gonna wait for sale. I haven't decided yet because it's $300, right now, $350 later if I don't pre-order it. That's why I'm kind of weighing that right now. Is it worth diving in day one to get that $50 off? Will there be sales later? Which I think there will be, because it is a for-profit device as well. So that leaves room, if it's not selling well, for them to do special deals and sales and things. And this will also probably not be the only device that we see like this. This is the first, right? So we're going to see potentially other gaming tablets out there that are going to be released from other third parties, and potentially in the future first parties. And if it's first parties, it's probably going to be a little bit more limited on the full scope of apps because it's going to be focused on one ecosystem, right? So with that being said, the one of the benefits of this is having that full breadth of scope, right? Where you have the NVIDIA, well, I forget what it's called, the NVIDIA service that they have on there. You have
GeoForce now.
yeah, and then you also have Steam Link as well from Valve. You have Game Pass built in. You can download the Xbox app to do console cloud streaming as well for home, right? Which is something that
That's why Xbox would have to do a native device. Like, if Xbox can't just do an xCloud device because you would want Android stuff and all that crap on there. That's the extra step to this device.
Well, they have within the Xbox itself, they have a lot of those apps built in. It's not necessarily Android based. Like I love YouTube, they have Netflix, and they have all these other things. So, but I do think if Xbox did their own device, it would be slightly different than what we're used to on the regular ecosystem, because it would have to be built based off of tablet and like smartphone type technology, which is going to lead to different kind of architecture, different operating system, all that kind of stuff. But so if we focus on what this is for me, I'm looking at it as I have a Steam Deck right now, and I'm not the most tech advanced guy. I've managed somehow to be able to get xCloud on there, right? And it's a good experience. If I'm in a great spot in my house, then I get a completely smooth, seamless experience on there with xCloud. However, if I want to put Xbox Cloud streaming like from home, where I can console stream to my Steam Deck, that's a whole nother process. I got to figure that out, right? I haven't even stepped into it. You got to hook it into your PC. You got to hook it into keyboard. You got to go do all these things and kind of cheat the system and stuff. And I'm not the guy that's like, I don't really understand a lot of that, right? So it's difficult for me to go through that process. I managed to do it once because it was worth it for Game Pass. But then, okay, if I want to add this, I got to do it again for another thing. Then if I want to add this, I got to do it for another thing. Then if I want to do this, I got to do it for another thing. Then another thing. That's not who I am, right? Like, I'm not the person that really loves doing that stuff. I want something I can pick up and grab and play, right? And so for me, it's like, is that worth the premium price of something that's going to give me more flexibility and ecosystem in how I game, right? So yes, I can do that on my phone, but there's an issue on my phone because I'm always getting notifications, whether it's one thing or another. Like I'm getting work messages, I'm getting phone calls, I'm getting voicemails, I'm getting Twitter notifications. My phone is my business, right? Like all the time. And I can't like ignore it. So if I'm chilling or trying to take a chill time or trying to play or whatever, I have to have my phone. And anything it goes off, a notification goes off, I have to check it, right? And you know how annoying it is to go in and out of that damn like spaceship screen every single time a notification goes off?
You need two phones then. You need a work phone and a play phone.
So, well, that would be the thing. Okay, do I go get a phone and spend $200 to $300 on that, or do I just get this, which is more built around the experience as a whole, right? It is a little bit more expensive than if we were to go and get a used phone potentially, but then that's still, I'm using not built-in controllers. I'm still dealing with buying the Kishi on top of the phone, on top of that, right, or whatever. So for me, it's like, okay, this device, I get access to a lot of the things I already do. I chill in bed at night when my wife's playing GTA still, and I play NBA 2K23 from my Xbox that's right here, sitting next to me. And I play it on my phone in bed, and I console stream, and it's a fucking amazing experience. When my notifications goes off, I'm like, fuck. Gotta hit the little button, close it, reopen it. Now, if I had this, hey, guess what? I got my phone free. You know what I mean? It's no longer free. A tablet there's no tablets that really have gaming controllers. So if I could get like an iPad and console stream to that and have it propped up there. But it's so nice to have this like easy just to pick up flexible device that it's not.
Do you play xCloud in bed, or do you just stream your console?
I do that on the Steam Deck.
Okay.
Yeah, I do that on the Steam Deck because I spend all the time and effort to get that working. And I will honestly tell you though, the console streaming, it just for my house, whatever reason, like if I'm in the kitchen, for some reason, xCloud and Game Pass app is flawless. But in my bedroom,
that's what I was getting to. I was like, depending on what Wi-Fi chip they have in this, like the Switch Wi-Fi chip is dog shit, and you get no signal unless if you're right next to your router. So it's like, depending on the Wi-Fi chipset they use in this, your xCloud experience could be.
So that's why I was asking
great.
about what I sent to you. Hey, how's the Wi-Fi's and
okay.
stuff on this, because that's a big deal with this type of device. You need really good Wi-Fi, and I think that's how they built this device with where they put the money, right? They didn't put the money in the power. They put the money in the screen, the buttons, and the wireless technology built in.
The thing
right?
is, that was just saying what Wi-Fi it works with, not the Wi-Fi chip, though.
Right.
So,
But they're promoting it
like
as a premium cloud
Yeah.
gaming device. So I would think they have to make sure the Wi-Fi was top quality. Otherwise, it's pointless, right?
Top quality.
It has to be, right? If it's not, could you imagine if everybody bought this and the Wi-Fi's on it sucks?
Well, we heard Phil, right? Phil took it to TGS, and he said even on the hotel Wi-Fi, he was good to go, right?
Right.
So
I'm
obviously he's promoting it too as
Yeah.
something that's reasonable to travel with and to use shitty, spotty Wi-Fi elsewhere as well.
So also it has a big advantage because it isn't the most powerful machine dedicated, which it doesn't need it because it's mainly a cloud device, that you get a really good battery life on there too. And the one thing about the Steam Deck, you know, like the battery life on that thing sucks ass, right? I in order for me to really use it and get my full potential, when I play it in bed, I have it plugged into the power, right? And I jack it up to ultra settings, and I'll play like a Resident Evil, Metal Gear Solid, or something, and it just looks stunning on that thing, right? It's absolutely gorgeous. But for me, this thing is more of a gaming on the go convenience device that allows me to take my Xbox games and any of the games I own everywhere, not just my Steam library, right? And now I understand the Steam Deck is capable of way more, right? But unless you're that person that goes that extra mile, it's not necessarily for the casual, right? So I think this has potential, but it's not just with this one device, but this type of device, because I think we're going to see, this is just the first, right? Jess had alluded to the fact that Razer had already had patents before, potentially with this, and also other companies could be coming into this ecosystem now of cloud gaming. Yeah, it's a new thing. It's basically a tablet where you have a controller stuck onto it, right?
Yeah.
And if you have that now, you can have all these different third parties start making them, and guess what? You're just gonna have these apps put on these devices, and it's built around the streaming device. Now, it's only gonna have a limited potential right now with the price point that it is, because it is not for everybody. You have to be understanding what it is first. If you buy it thinking it's a dedicated gaming like native device, you're going to be disappointed. It's not going to compete against Steam Deck in that way. It's not going to compete against the Switch in that way, because the Switch has first party hardware all over the place. Even new age phones can have better graphics natively on the device. This is a cloud based device, and you can play mobile games off of Android that you can get run decently as well, pretty damn good on the thing. And there's a lot of options there to download. How many mobile games are there in the Google storefront?
Thousands.
Right. I mean, there's tons of stuff you can play on this thing natively. And I do see that people say, well, it's not you can't play your games natively. You can play games natively. There's thousands of games you can download and install and play natively on this device.
Yeah, but people keep comparing it to xCloud, and they want to talk about native Xbox games.
You're not going to see if a native Xbox handheld device is going to cost how much? $700, $600 to get something like as powerful as a Series S and a handheld scope. Like, I mean, maybe
like Jez says, it's probably not even possible right now.
Right,
like the Steam Deck is technically not as powerful as a
and why put that investment in that right now when the future of gaming in the future going forward is cloud, and the technology is only going to improve, and networks and infrastructure
that's why I don't see Microsoft making it. They've learned from Zune and their fitness watches and Windows Phone. They're done making those kind of small devices and try to compete with that market. They'll just put their service on other devices that are already out there.
But if they
partnership,
if this it does sell well, and they feel like they could potentially find a market for a device like that, I think they could potentially do one, just because they know that they can get the price point lower, and they're going to make more money off the back end of those
I just think
within their
too many
storefront.
Times trying to compete with random tech markets that are niche like that, and it's just
possibly, you know, and
but it does make sense, Jasper, from a standpoint, if they get the worldwide mind share that they're going for, right? If they get everywhere and they open up the markets in the East, and they get much more competitive over in Europe and all that kind of stuff, it does make sense from the perspective of having your own branded device out there, carry that momentum forward, promoting your the promoting the tech that you're most heavily invested in for the future, right? To have your own device out there that has an Xbox on there, that has Xbox branding on it, saying this is our premium xCloud Game Pass device, right? It makes sense from a marketing standpoint to do something like that if you can pull it off. And I think that if they get comfortable enough, I think it's still possible. Look, we know that they're doing a streaming stick or some kind of streaming box to TVs. We know that they're working on that. We know that's probably going to be coming out in the next couple of years. So the handheld device, as it says in the Xbox Wire, is the next evolution for xCloud. So it would make sense to have your own eventually. Again, by the end of the generation,
close,
maybe.
Right? Yeah, I don't think it's close. I think when the tech gets there and stuff, and they realize that, hey, we can release this thing at a really good price point, and it has a chance at having a mass market appeal. And we've already seen these other devices that have done the testing for us, and we kind of know what to expect in the market and everything. They could potentially try and grow the market within themselves, because Game Pass at that point is going to be so damn strong, I believe, that you're going to have a subscription service that is going to have, or what are they, probably at 30 million roughly, I would assume right now.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to potentially 4 or 5 years from now, who knows? You could be upwards of 80 to 100 million after all these games launch that we know is coming over the next few years.
It's just so hard though to, like, if they would have to get in the market now. It's so hard to come in the market late and get people to buy devices, because if they already have devices, they're not just going to go out and buy a new one.
Yeah, but anytime you have a good price point
to...
is welcoming to anybody on, you know what I mean? And also, this is going to go in like, okay, every couple of years, these things are going to be replaceable every 2 years, because there's not going to be anything special about the ecosystem within it. It's just the device that you're on. So people can be upgrading these things every few years, just like they do with tablets, you know.
Fuzzy, what were you going to say?
Oh, I was going to say that the easiest approach for them would be, instead of worrying about building it themselves, is just partner, kind of like what they did with the Bang & Olufsen headphones. Just maybe, I know it's Logitech and Tencent with this particular one, but maybe in a year or so they go back and say, well, make an Xbox version, have it where it's in black and green or something along those lines, and it'll be like an official Xbox licensed product or compatible product. And then at that point, it's sold on the Xbox store, it's sold at Microsoft stores and things like that. And, they have it where you can do the all access via that particular product, subsidized kind of like through just having, Game Pass subscription, where it's like, all right, well, Game Pass is going to cost you $15 a month. How about you get this for $19.99 a month or something, like where it's $5 more for 2 years, and you get basically the device and Game Pass all included, plus your login will allow you to cloud stream any of your Xbox games that you own via xCloud, that new service where they are working on in the background now for games that aren't in Game Pass type of deal. But
Fuzzy, when Microsoft buys Valve, then they have their VR and they have their Steam Deck, and they can just turn it into Xbox VR and the Xbox Steam Deck. It all works out. Yeah. And I'll throw this out there as well. The whole Tencent thing, listen, the old saying, keep your enemies closer. Now that Shawn Layden's on board at Tencent, you saw Phil hit him up on Twitter instantaneously and congratulate him on that move. Don't doubt for a minute. They've already made deals with Tencent. We already know that. Xbox has made some deals in the East for Tencent for some mobile stuff as well. Don't doubt now with Shawn Layden on board that Phil isn't picking up the phone more often and talking to Tencent about what's going on and trying to keep an eye on the on that big bad beast over there. So I don't doubt it for a minute.
Yeah. I think, man, I honestly, like, I'm talking, the more I think about it, the more I talk myself into getting this. The only aspect is, like, I know there will be more devices like this in the future, and like, if this is going to be the best one.
Once this is out, there'll be, like, I'm assuming this is being made in China, and once it's made there, there'll be companies just knock off. So
yeah.
The prices, because they're going to have third-party competition around here, is going to potentially lead the price down over time.
Yeah, but once once the production specs get out in China, they'll just have third-party knockoffs like crazy. So
yeah.
And then you'll be able to find one for $98.99 or something like that.
Yeah, crazy, right? Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to watch. It's a new kind of device, right? In some ways, it's basically a tablet with controls, gaming controls on it. Mobile gaming.
Yeah, it's a It's a phone with Joy-Cons glued on.
I would think mobile gamers that really enjoy mobile gaming could just actually find interest in this also. You know what I mean? I know they're used to playing on their phones, but like if they's like, okay, well, cool, mobile games without having to use my phone, I think you could have some people just be like, okay, cool, I'm gonna check that out. It is pricey for if you compare it to Steam Deck and other things like that, but the types of games that it has are just different than that as well, right? So you could potentially have a different market there, a different type of gamer that's like, okay, I'm willing to fork over $300 to get into that ecosystem. But $300 is expensive, right? For a device like this. But then we look at the Switch
Honestly,
as
for what
the
it is,
number
I think
one
it's a good
handheld
price.
gaming. The number one gaming device, period, is the Switch. It's $300, $350 for the OLED. It has not dropped in price once since it's released, and it's based on old ass tech, way inferior to this. The advantage it has is the Nintendo games, right? So it's just gonna be interesting to watch for sure. Maybe you'll have that all these people when they're the Ubisoft Forward and the D23 Expo, all the mobile games they kept showcasing us to kind of like market it
work
at
on
that
it.
audience. Maybe
It'll be too powerful.
you sure?
It's new mobile games. Those new mobile games look like as good as a Xbox One console game.
The mobile games got to run on devices that are older than 2 years, right? New mobile games. If they marketed mobile games to like only brand new phones, and that would be like really limiting your
Diablo
market, right?
Immortal won't work on this thing.
It won't.
Nope.
For sure.
That's what Jez said in his article.
It's interesting. Yeah. I mean, I would hope so. I would hope it would, but we'll see. If it minimum specs of Diablo Immortal for phones is more than like 3-year-old phones, that'd be pretty shit. I don't know. Maybe it's the case. I'll take Jez's word for it, though. I don't want to.
Well, it kind of makes sense. I mean, look at how much money they made off of microtransactions. It's like those are the people that are going to have the latest and greatest phones.
Does anybody here in the chat have a phone older than 2020 that is playing Diablo Immortal? That's a question I got to ask, right?
Because I fired up Diablo Immortal on my Note 8 when I still had my Note 8.
Okay, how does this compare to the Note 8, Jasper?
Yeah, that's what I'm going to look up.
Yeah, because I did fire it up and it worked. So
interesting.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move. Last topic, guys. Xbox 2023. I want to go into a little bit of that because it's been a topic of conversation based on the list of games that were rumored to have been the slate for 2023 originally. Or actually even 2022. What was Grubb's list? Was it 2022 or 2023?
It was 2023.
Okay. So initially, Xbox had a wide slate for 2023, like a large slate rumored. I would take this with a grain of salt. However, it was a pretty damn impressive list, and we don't know exactly where they're going to be at some of those games. But with knowing that Starfield and Redfall and Forza Motorsport are all supposed to be coming out next year because
Your Note 8's better than this.
Is it? Okay.
Right on.
Wow. And the Note 8 was what year, Jasper? That was
2017, I think.
Yeah, for like 5 years. Yeah.
Wow. So this
4A.
Interesting. Okay. All right. So with 2023, I'm thinking that how many first party releases? This is where I want to ask. How many first party releases we getting from Xbox in 2023?
Are we talking AAA or are we talking smaller stuff too?
Well, the smaller stuff can be surprises. Like we got Pentiment and stuff like that. I'm talking about
big AAA.
Big AAA
for next year.
And first party only, not second party. No
second party counts. Like Contraband counts.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Contraband would count. I think
Stalker 2.
Stalker 2 would count. Well, no, that's not really because that's not published by Microsoft.
Okay.
The difference is Contraband is actually being published by Microsoft.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
so,
yep.
Okay. What is the other game that they did that was like a Contraband? There's another one that they announced that was a partnership game.
The IO.
You talk about the 4X strategy one?
Yeah. Okay. So what's that?
Or Era, whatever.
Yeah, whatever the heck it one is.
So that's not. Is that coming? That's coming to console, right?
Yeah.
Y'all consider that AAA? It's a 4-time strategy game. I mean,
I think it's
for me, it's big budget, so it's probably AAA. It's big budget for strategy, so
yeah, it's primarily a focus on PC players, but it's coming to console, right? So Yeah, I'm wondering what other games we're gonna see, because I think those three are the given, right? Starfield, Forza, Redfall, as we can hopefully expect. But they had to have already had plans for 2023 before this, before these games got pushed into there. And I can't believe that Forza Motorsport was their sole game they had planned for 2023, right? So Avowed, that was on the list. Y'all think the potential there? Because a lot of us thought it could have even been this year.
Isn't the latest rumors that's been getting reworked recently?
Yeah.
And it's supposedly been reworked twice, but previously they just the biggest thing was that they were moving to Unreal 5, and that was just came out this year. So they got to convert everything over to Unreal 5. Look, I went back and forth in the DMs on this, and I'd love to sit here and say 8. I'd love to sit here and say 8, and I think that the potential is for 8 next year. The outside chance potential is 8. I think realistically, I think we get 6. I think we wind up with 6. Now I get completely wrong. Rand and Jez both are not comfortable with next year outside of the big 3. Rand, I think today on the Xbox 2, I think he had 5, 4 or 5 come out. So I'm going to say 6 because I think you get obviously Redfall, Motorsport, Starfield for sure. And then I do think that Avowed is ready. And I think that's the holiday game. I think Hellblade 2 gets pushed to spring of 2024. That's going to be the most polished game that Xbox has coming out. Hellblade 2 is going to set the bar for everything, much like Naughty Dog's games do for Sony. So I think they're going to give them the extra time to have that thing absolutely pristine. They're giving all their teams time, but I think Hellblade 2 gets pushed to 2024. Obviously, Perfect Dark, Fable are both 2024, 2025 at the earliest. I think that Everwild is 2025 at the earliest. I'm just going down his list. So I think we get Avowed, and I think we get Contraband next year. And I think that we get either In Exiles or Compulsion's next game next year. I know Rand today said Compulsion's game he thinks is going to be ready first next year. I personally think In Exile, with how active they've been on Twitter, how upbeat they have been, I think In Exile is close. And I think that they are getting like itchy right now to talk about it. And so I think In Exile is next year as well. And then I don't know if you count this one, Mav, but I think that this would be number 7. So those are my 6 big ones. And then I think Coalition's smaller game could be ready next year as well. Yeah. But I don't know if you count that in here because it is a smaller product. We don't
know what smaller is to them.
Yes,
you know
we
what
don't
I mean?
know.
Like
we don't know anything.
So also
6 or 7, depending on how you count.
Like I'll list the games that they had mentioned that was originally slated potentially for 2023. Okay, and that was Avowed, and this is rumors again. Avowed, Fable, which that's not happened in 2023. I couldn't foresee that at all. Right. Perfect Dark. Potentially, but I think not as well, right?
No, 2024.
Everwild, maybe.
No.
Push that out, right?
Yeah.
And Hellblade 2. Who knows? We've seen more of that than any of the games.
I think that stands a better chance, honestly, of any other thing.
It seems like we've seen a lot of good stuff from the development of that game. Constantly, they're constantly updating.
Real gameplay, though.
Yeah, we have.
Yeah.
At the
that was
Game
gameplay,
Awards.
but not
engine.
Jasper's talking about action, like real.
Like we haven't seen like someone holding a controller or whatever and like just walking through the world. It's been kind of like the cinematic stuff, It's
but
like,
there was control. Like in part of that gameplay we saw at the Game Awards, they were actually controlling. Like
didn't it say it was like in engine rendered though or whatever?
No, there was gameplay. They said it was actual gameplay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because you could see the cuts from when it would go from the cinematic to the like. The stutter or whatever when she would throw the the spike at the big baby or whatever.
Oh yeah, and I forgot too. Quake reboot next year as well. So that put me at about 8 if that happens.
Yeah, that'd be crazy. So Hellblade 2, which Grubb said, I think he had said that that's one of his most likely from this list that could hit next year, like holiday, fall, whatever. Then there's Contraband. In Exile's game, Compulsion's game, and the Coalition's game. So here's the thing: we don't know what In Exile's game is, but we know it's big,
Mhm.
right? We don't know what Compulsion's next game is, but we know that there's a lot of excitement internally about it, right? Because they keep talking about how excited they are about what Compulsion's doing right now.
I think
And-
Obsidian's the surprise choice. I think there's probably some smaller projects they're working on that they could just drop. Because
Well,
they're
they-
working on 5 games.
They said they
but-
wanted to release one a year at start
Yeah.
to get one out a year, right? So Grounded is this year, right? Avowed would be next year.
Pentiment,
Pentiment is
and
this
Grounded.
year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Pentiment.
Yeah, Avowed would be potentially next year then,
Yes.
and then maybe the next year after that we see something else from them, another project.
Outer Worlds too.
We know Outer Worlds,
2024.
Avowed. I'm thinking there's probably another smaller project that they're just drop next year, and they
Yeah.
push Avowed and Outer World. But
Right. Yeah, even Grove said that some of these games no longer pass the smell test. Like I agree. Like Fable, Perfect Dark, Everwild.
No.
You know, but ones I could potentially foresee would be Avowed, would be Hellblade 2, would be Contraband, would be In Exile's game. I think that was probably also 2024 more than likely, but you never know because it hasn't officially been announced yet. And Compulsion's game and Coalition's game. Like that's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 possibilities, right? So maybe one of those, if even one of those hits next year, then you're looking at a year with 4 big AAA games, right?
Mhm.
And that's not including any other possible third-party relationship type games, where I believe that they had also said it's a possibility you could see like that Certain Affinity game come out next year or something else, right? So who
Machine
knows?
Games.
Yeah. There's a Wolfenstein somewhere.
Yeah.
Like I said, there's a Quake reboot from id somewhere. We know this. It's coming.
Project
something.
Mara.
Yeah.
Yeah, Project Mara.
And a lot of the internals on this probably come from a time when they weren't really slating the Bethesda ZeniMax games.
Yeah.
Right?
They probably didn't want to even talk about them, right?
Right. So you're talking
'cause-
about Quake at that point,
And
like you
Bethesda
said.
likes to do that. We announce it this year, we drop
Yeah.
it this year. So
Yeah. And ZeniMax Online has been making a new game for quite a few years now already as well. So there's a lot of stuff. Like I said, this is out without ABK too. That's why
Yeah.
I said
Diablo will count towards that if when the deal gets closed
see,
by the time that's
then,
released.
then you're talking about pushing 8, 9. And I don't think that they hold. Look, this year was terrible. They got to make it up. I said if they can average 6 to 7 for the next 3
Alvin
years.
just said Minecraft Legends. We haven't
Yeah,
talked
Minecraft
about that.
Legends too. If they can average 6 to 7 over the next 3 years, that's going to be one hell of a run. If we get 20 plus games over the next 3 years, it's going to be crazy.
I just
But that's
want them to have such a crazy year that it's just going to
Yeah.
shit all over all those narratives that have been spewed out
Right.
the last couple, and
Right,
then we
that-
can just
and
say,
I think that Phil kind of wants that too.
yeah. I think Agent wants to have this like feast, you know what I mean? But they can't release everything and leave nothing for 2024. Also,
No,
right?
but they have so much that's not going to happen.
Exactly.
I
And
think they
it's
kind
gonna
of
be
got
crazy.
themselves kind of to the number that Pong was saying with 6. I mean, every other month of having a big, first
Yeah.
party or second party deal release. Plus, that, like you said, they're going to probably have some third party deals mixed in there
Game
or
Pass
some
stuff.
AA. So it's like you don't want to overwhelm your player base to the point where they just look at this big list of new games and like, I have nothing to play because I don't know which one to start.
Yeah.
So,
But Fuzzy, I think it does change, and Alvin's right. MS doesn't give a crap about releasing
Yeah.
games on top of each other. With Game Pass, that's changed now, Fuzzy.
Yeah.
With
Yeah.
Game Pass, it doesn't matter,
You find your genre, you play whatever you want to play.
and you have those
Then you
games
wanna play.
available all the time.
yeah.
Well,
It
also,
keeps you invested in the ecosystem nonstop.
if you had like 3 huge games drop at the same time, you know how many people would subscribe?
Right. That's
Yeah.
It would just create so much damn buzz. It'd be
I
like,
mean,
holy shit, Game Pass! is
even,
fucking
like,
amazing.
$210 worth of games this
$1.
month.
It's only
Even
$1.
Activision doesn't even really give a fuck about releasing like similar games because Overwatch comes out in October and Call of Duty comes out in October. 2 Activision games, 2 first-person shooters. So it's like,
Yeah.
Hey, so they fit the family perfectly.
Right.
I just we're in for like a really damn good ride here the next few years, I think, and like I've seen so much conversation about like, well, Microsoft is bad for the acquisition of Activision Blizzard because of quality, and then Microsoft just makes low quality games that they just want to put out fodder and push microtransactions, and that's what we don't want them to acquire all these different studios, but it's so fucking stupid and ignorant to the fact of everything they've been doing. the last couple of years, all the studios they've acquired, all of the projects they've kicked off, all of the investment into the studios that they've acquired, growing them all.
Murder.
and investing in new projects, allowing these studios to release things they never would have got the opportunity to otherwise, such as games like Pentiment as well. This is not bad for gaming. This is not bad for the industry. In fact, I can make a strong argument that it could potentially, holy shit, be the best thing for gaming. Like, just as a consumer, right? As a consumer, and not only as a consumer, but for the company itself, because what happened, obviously, in entertainment industries and all that, and music industries, there's a reason they have all shifted to this model, right? Mm-hmm. There's a reason they've shifted all to this model, and it's changed the industries. And gaming was always slated to be next, right? It was just the last to get there because the technology to get there was the hardest to achieve. We're to that point. We're to that point now, right? People were not complaining back in the day when you could get a GameFly subscription or a Blockbuster subscription saying it's bad for the industry, right? Nobody was complaining about that shit. Like, the fact that you can pay a price, you can play as much as you want, is not going to destroy the gaming industry. It's only going to allow these companies that are invested in actually do this properly to be able to fund more projects and more games to fulfill those libraries, right? For us to be able to play those damn games. And we're seeing the fruits of that now.
It's within not sustainable.
Within all of the Sean Layden. All of the investments from all of the acquisitions and all these games, we're seeing the fruits of that. Now, the game's got to come out, right? The proof has got to be in the pudding when we actually get to play these damn games that we've been talking about for all this time. But to actually think that all of these damn projects are all going to get canceled and all going to be in development hell and are not going to be released is just asinine and absolutely ridiculous to think. You know what I mean? It's like, and that's what they're painting this picture of. If Microsoft acquires Activision Blizzard, that's what's going to happen to them. And it's like, come on, holy shit.
Mav, the other thing people are forgetting about when they talk about this stuff, they're so intellectually dishonest.
Yeah.
Microsoft cannot just pump out games that are 60 meta and expect people to continue to subscribe to their service. Why did Amazon just go spend $1 billion on one season of Ring of Power? They know better. You can't do that. Disney can't just throw out garbage onto Disney Plus and expect people to stay. Listen, we can talk about that. You already know my opinion on this, Jasper. You already know. But what I'm saying is the quality. I'm talking about the production value. They can't just give garbage and expect people to continue to subscribe. Microsoft and Phil, everybody there knows you have to put out quality, especially from your first party. That's why they're giving all these teams all this extra time. And we can have arguments all day long about whether or not Halo Infinite should have come out when it did or whatever the case may be. The fact is, they still took their number one IP, one of the most iconic IPs in the entire industry, and delayed it for a year when they needed it for the beginning of a new generation, right? At any other given moment, Microsoft and Xbox would have forced that thing out the door to be there at launch for the Series X and Series S. Bar nothing, they would have launched that thing broken. Okay, just to say that they had Halo at launch. That's what they would have done in the past. They have now gone back and said, no, we are now about quality. We know internally they've looked at Sony's games, their first-party games, The Last of Us 2, and said, what makes this game so special? They want their studios making quality. This is what drives me absolutely insane about these people still out here spewing this nonsense. There is nothing that says Microsoft, who is investing $70 billion in one purchase, is all of a sudden going to get cheap with their games. All of a sudden going to tell their developers, hey, you got 3 years, do your best, get it out the door. That's the exact opposite of what we are currently seeing. That's why you're all sitting back going, where's the games? Why do we have no games in 2022?
Well, you get 6 years for the next Call of Duty instead of 2.
Right. You could have forced Starfield out this year. You could have done that. But they didn't do that. They gave them another extension to get it right. No, Microsoft is doing the opposite of what all these clowns are saying. They're actually taking quality control seriously now. They actually know that their first-party titles have to take advantage of the series consoles, have to be some of the best-looking games, best-playing games out there, because that's how you make a brand like PlayStation. That's how you do that. That's how you take Xbox Game Pass and xCloud to the next level. When people drop in there and say, holy shit, we just got 8 games this year from first party, and they're all freaking ridiculously good. Now, not everybody's going to agree. Everybody's going to have their favorites. Not everybody's going to like every single game that comes out. That doesn't matter. If you can sit back at the end of the day and say every single one of those games had the quality control in place that we allowed those devs to do their best work ever, then you got to be satisfied with that. And that's exactly what Microsoft and Xbox are going to do. This nonsense narratives that they take the past Xbox and transplant it to nowadays, ignoring all the evidence that we have to the contrary, and saying, no, it's just going to be the same. We're going to get a bunch of 60 fodder, Game Pass fodder. That's all they're going to freaking do. That's not what they're doing. That's exact. They're investing more into this industry than any other company out there right now. Bar none. Bar 10 cents. It doesn't matter.
The gamers don't want that. They don't want them to invest in gaming, apparently.
Right.
Pong?
Right.
Why?
This.
Why do people not want Microsoft to invest in gaming?
Because you're taking my games.
They know that if a Microsoft that's all in with the finances or the pockets that they have, it's going to destroy their favorite platform. There's no doubt about it. I mean, if you match dollar for dollar, there's no way to compete. I mean, it's just I get a chuckle out of every time I hear about the whole quality thing, and it's like, all right, I have both systems. I bought Horizon Forbidden West day one. It was probably the most broken game I've played in the past 2 years. Absolutely, first 5 minutes, the companion that's following you around, Jarl. Yeah, it's like, well, no, it's like the companion that follows you around was swimming in the water and he's stuck there, and I can't access or interact with anything because he's in the pond that's a mile away. It's like I had to restart the game from scratch because of that. Oh, well, let's see. We got microtransactions that didn't appear during the review process for Gran Turismo. Now, bear in mind, I still play the game, but how do you let them slide with that? Or how do you let them slide with the fact that, they advertise that you'll be able to sell cars in the game, and it's still, you can't sell cars in the game. It's almost, what is it, like 6 months now?
Well, that's par for the course with them now. We still don't have factions. That was advertised as coming with Last of Us.
Yeah.
You would think they'd get sued for false advertisement at some point.
No, because their fan base isn't going to do that.
To be fair, Halo also said it was going to have split screen co-op.
True,
right?
But it's like
they only lied once.
You can't only pick on Xbox for missing the mark on stuff when the platform that you quote unquote prefer is doing the same damn crap. It boggles my mind. But
it's such
people turn a blind eye to their favorite stuff.
It's a narrow vision on like a focus, right? It's like, this is the only thing that matters to me. Everything outside of it is bullshit, right? And everything outside of it is bad. And if somebody's trying to like influence what I like, then that's bad. So you got all these people that are like, okay, gaming is PlayStation. If you're not a PlayStation gamer, you're not a gamer. I mean, it's actual people that actually think this kind of stuff out there, right? Like, why would you play on anything besides PlayStation? You had people going in to buy Xboxes at GameStop in last generation and be like, why would you get an Xbox? No, buy this PlayStation instead, right? Like all these different things. And it's been happening for so damn long, right? And Microsoft is investing to turn that around, right?
You're right. Microsoft needs to buy GameStop so they can just remove all the PlayStations from
they invested into GameStop. They gave them like pretty much a charity handout almost, like to help them out.
Yeah.
But they're doing so much to find their way to compete, right? It doesn't have to match PlayStation's model. It has to fit with what's going to work with what Microsoft has and their focus and their strengths are. Microsoft's focus and strengths are on software, services, and subscriptions, right? So when they started transitioning this model and like, okay, well, what are we going to do to save Xbox? How is Phil going to come up with an idea to save Xbox, to get Microsoft behind the brand, to create an investment into this thing that he loves, that we all love, that gamers in general, how many fans of different franchises out there from Xbox are there? How much positive things has Xbox added to gaming? How many things were they first to implement that other services ended up copying? Several. They have influenced the industry over and over and over again. They got down because they lost their focus on what mattered the most. They went back down to the roots and figured out, how do we save this? They listed out the lines. Phil did it on stage. This is what he's going to do. He still didn't have the full support of Microsoft at that point when he listed those things. He started checking off those boxes. Then he convinced Microsoft to give him the full support, get rid of the naysayers, give him the full support. They got heavily invested. He convinced them that this makes sense for the company. It makes sense for the company's future, not just Xbox, but Microsoft's future. It makes sense to grow into the entertainment industry, into the gaming industry, and become a force like they've never been before. People don't like that because it's Microsoft, right? Because of Microsoft's past. Microsoft is flexing their muscles to inject their vision of what the industry should be onto the other companies, right? And people don't like that. PlayStation gamers don't like Microsoft making them look bad, making their expensive stuff look like it's a bad deal all of a sudden. Like, no, it's great to be PlayStation. We deserve to be able to pay more for our shit, right? Because they tell us that it's good, and I believe it with my whole heart that it's better because they told me so, and because I like these third-person action-adventure games, and they're amazing, right? Well, guess what? There's so many more different damn games out there to play, and other than money-hatted exclusives and third-person action-adventure games, and there's a lot of things that are better on an Xbox than they are on a PlayStation. Number one, the controller. Number two, first-person shooters. Number three, RPGs. Not JRPGs, unfortunately. Not yet. Eventually, hopefully, one day. Online. Party chat.
People to talk to.
People to actually talk to that play multiplayer fucking games. Game Pass is number one, though, in how they've injected this and actually put value into our hands with first-party games day one, and they're never going to leave the service. Something that PlayStation, again, has said that gamers don't deserve first-party games day one. Those subscription services are for old games. Meanwhile, they're putting third-party games on their service day one. They just refuse to do their own or even recent after release because guess what? They want to sell that game at $70 for as long as possible, right? There's so many damn reasons why Xbox is changing the game industry for the good, and people just ignore it because it doesn't fit their narrative. It doesn't fit the stuff that they've been saying for the last 10 years. It doesn't fit everything that they've been preaching or the fucking, like Pong says, the intellectually dishonest conversations they've been leading, misquoting articles, spreading misinformation on purpose for toxicity, to stoke the chat, to get more clicks, to get more views. You see that still happening now. People flip-flop just for fucking clicks and stuff. And it's just like so strange, dude. It's just such a weird culture to have to hate something so much that is for it's fucking gaming, right? They have to hate something so much that you go out there and you just try and spread fucking misinformation and negativity about something because there's a chance you're not going to get marketing rights and free DLC and exclusive fucking modes on a franchise. That is the stupidest thing ever. And for one game to potentially get wrapped around this whole conversation of an acquisition of this magnitude is just lunacy. It is like the most ridiculous thing I've seen from like big business and government regulation period across any industry to focus on one thing. It's like when Disney bought Star Wars. Oh my God. If Disney buys Star Wars, guess what? Nobody's going to be able to get Star Wars unless it's Disney. You know what? I know Pong hates that shit, but guess what happened, right?
I was just going to say, well, they did ruin it, but...
Well, hold on now, but like, what is there still competition in the entertainment industry because the biggest franchise in entertainment got bought?
Yeah.
Do we still have Netflix? Do we
Look,
still
the
have
DOJ
Amazon
tried to block
Prime?
Fox, right? They tried to block the Fox deal, right? So again, nothing happened. There's still competition, even though Disney got Fox. To your point.
Yeah, there's still competition everywhere. One franchise not being on, fuck them. Don't even give them Call of Duty at this point.
See,
They don't deserve
PlayStation
it.
fucks them so good, they just don't want to leave that good fucking behind.
And for the PlayStation fans, I don't mean this towards PlayStation fans. They're just like, oh, I prefer playing on PlayStation and I want Call of Duty. I'm saying for all the fucking asshats out there that keep saying that like this deal should be blocked because I'm afraid of losing Call of Duty, or like that Microsoft's going to ruin gaming and all this bullshit. Fuck it. Fuck them. Keep Call of Duty exclusive. I don't care anymore. I don't even like exclusives, period. But I'm just so sick of the bullshit out there that I just want them to rub it in their face at this point. I want them to get COD and just like 7 years from now, once that deal is done, whatever, I just want them to have a marketing campaign out the ass. It just says Call of Duty exclusive, Call of Duty exclusive, Call of Duty exclusive. I want them to fucking release songs.
on Xbox.
Release songs about it. Call of Duty exclusive. Fuck you, everybody else. Call of Duty exclusive. Xbox, Game Pass, Call of Duty exclusive. Like, there's been so much stupid shit about one gaming franchise potentially being exclusive to one gaming company when it's.
Meanwhile, Sony has the exclusive content for it.
Final Fantasy is one of the biggest gaming franchises in gaming history. Xbox doesn't get the new games, right?
But what's a PlayStation player's response to that? It's like, go buy a PlayStation, right?
Yeah,
Correct.
well, go buy an Xbox or sign up to a $1 subscription for 3 months, and then you can get after that $14.99. You can play it on whatever fucking device you want.
Exactly.
You can get it on your Logitech G Cloud. I think they should have named that the G Spot. I think it would have sold more.
Oh,
No one could find it.
oh.
I can get it. I go,
Jasper.
hey, babe, I found the G Spot. No, I mean, it's just so much stupid stuff out there. It's just getting irritating to see the talking points and the regulators running with it because they don't know any better. And then these people, I'm going to read this one here, right? Xbox is the worst case scenario given their history of a low quality garbage catalog of games and destroying franchises. PlayStation is fighting to save gaming from Xbox, forcing its low quality microtransaction riddled model on even more gamers. Well, fuck you. I hope you don't get Call of Duty. Okay?
Enjoy your 12 games as a service from Jim Ryan when they come out.
Yeah.
Didn't one of them already close down?
I don't know. Did they?
The whole, isn't that Square thing? What was the game that just recently?
Oh, yeah.
closed?
No, that wasn't a game. That wasn't
Yeah,
one
that's
of them.
just
But yes,
a third party
the
deal.
Babylon
Count that
Falls or
one?
whatever the hell it was.
That's a
Yeah.
platinum disaster right there.
Yeah,
That's-
that was, yeah.
But it was
And-
exclusive on PlayStation.
It was.
Yeah. Well, here, let me ask. I got a question for you here. Would you rather have a Scalebound incident where the game got canceled before it was released, or spend $70 on a game and then it be canceled a year after it released, and then you
Well,
not
of
even be able
course.
to play that game?
Cancel it
anymore?
before.
You don't
I
wanna
don't
waste
want to
your
spend
money.
the money on something that.
That's
now
why I
can't
don't
play.
want Xbox to go back to Platinum. Platinum can
Yeah.
just go fuck themselves.
At this point,
They
after
keep-
Babylon's Fall, I'm saying fuck.
You're
Platinum
so
forever.
wrong, Jasper.
After Babylon's Fall, man, I don't know, dude. That's the worst thing I've seen from a publisher.
Bro, you know it's a 50-50. They're a home run hitter. That's all they are. They're
Yeah.
a power hitter. Either you get something good or you get a strikeout.
But
That's the way it is.
No,
people
no.
will not even be able to play this game.
Correct.
It was
That's why GameStop is giving it away.
It was $70.
Literally.
It was
Oh, for-
$70, and a year later, people
Yep.
will not.
Less
be
than a
able-
year.
Less than a year
Less
later,
than a year.
people are not going to be able to play this game.
Right.
That is absolutely insane to me. That a game that was marketed like that was on the PlayStation, like advertising, was at a Square E3 show, like thing they had last year, all these different things, is basically just thrown in the trash after a year, you know, and removing access for people that have bought it. That's crazy. I don't know, man.
Somehow Demolition All Stars still survives.
Can there be a class action lawsuit against something like that, or is it in that stupid terms of service when you hit
Probably
click
terms
A?
of service.
Terms of service, yeah.
That's just absolutely crazy, dude. But yeah,
Do
I
you-
mean,
Like they can't make like some offline mode for that or something. Like, is it just
nope. That's always online game, so and it failed, and they're just pulling it.
you
Bleeding.
can't have
Look at
like
what
a
okay.
fucking server in a back room that just runs it for that one person?
Nope.
You're on mute,
They
Pong.
did. I don't even think they did that for Gravity Rush or the Rigs, their VR one that they closed down a while back either.
look at what Xbox did with Bleeding Edge. That game kind of failed, right? Still running.
It's still got support.
Yeah, it's still supporting. Like they're not going to back out of that, right? So like, you got to, if you release something, you got to stand behind the product, right? 100%. It's like the company might as well gone out of, unless that company's out of business, they got to support the product, right?
Even when companies go out of business, they still have servers run sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. No, exactly. I mean, like, there's no way that they should be able to actually get away with that. I think it's, I don't know, it's just kind of crazy to me. But besides that fact, wow, I think Xbox has got a lot coming in the next couple of years, guys, and we're in store for a shit ton. And the false narratives out there are ignorant. And either these people are actually this dumb or ignorant, or they are being dishonest about the information they're trying to portray, or they're just jaded in that much and they hate Xbox. You're muted, Pong.
Oh, I said they're actors. They're just acting in a lot of cases for the audience. That's all they're doing for their audience. What they built their platform on. Spewing hate, drama, and nonsense. That's what they built their drama. That's what they built. Yeah. So they keep going.
And of course, I'm being sarcastic with the Call of Duty thing. I don't really want it to be exclusive, but I just like at this point, like I think Xbox, the more that they get it back at them right now, the more likely they're going to be becoming aggressive towards the competition, right?
I hope every Xbox game that comes to PlayStation, they charge them $70 on it and charge them $60 on Xbox. Just fuck it. Why not?
Yeah.
No, I almost want to see Crying Lion Jim Dan's Ryan say one more thing, and then they go and buy Square just to rip up the contracts on Final Fantasy Forspoken.
Yeah, and like Nick says, people have a right to be concerned. I agree with that. Like the 2022 sucked, but I can't ignore the facts of what we know, and that's what people are doing, right? Like people ignore the facts of what we know is coming, and when they're making these arguments and talking about these discussions. They ignore the fact of all the projects that are in development, all the games that have been announced, all the games that have been in years in development. They ignore all of these different things and act like it doesn't exist, right? All that exists is what's here now.
Well, I mean, a lot of people, they don't know because they don't really look into it.
These people know.
They're ignorant. And then the people that do know, they're just dishonest about it, like you were saying.
Right,
so
and they're spreading that information to the ignorant, right? And they're taking that as the truth, and that's the problem. You know what I mean? And that's why I don't like the creators out there that spread bullshit and misinformation that know better, right? That twist headlines and stuff like that, and for the sake of viewership, right? And stuff, and there's a lot of that goes on. I think it's bad for the community. That's bad for gaming more than it's actually Microsoft and whatever they do with COD. You know what I mean? Because you're creating this culture of people that just are fucking mindless trolls that will buy into whatever the fuck the company does. And guess what? It costs you $50 extra in the UK on PlayStation 5. It costs you $10 extra on your games. And a lot of PSVR 1 is not compatible. Games are not compatible with PSVR 2.
But they're going to remake the game.
You can't use your controllers on the PS5. I mean, I have a PlayStation, and these things affect me too. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like we say this stuff because like it's just, hey, we want to hate on PlayStation. This is consumer shit, right? It's consumer stuff, right? And I don't like the fact that they talk out of one side of their mouth while doing another. And
most of those that complain about Game Pass though, are they really subscribing to Game Pass though?
No,
I have my doubts on that, just for the fact that it's like you can't deny.
They sign up when there's the big game out, like Halo. They'll probably sign up for $1 and to play it on their PC or whatever.
Mav, let me address something in the chat here real quick.
Yeah,
Mr. Nichols, I've been seeing your comments. Why is Sony number one? Because they do have the mind share. You're absolutely correct, but I don't know what your history is with gaming. Mr. Nichols, I don't know how far back you go. I don't know how much of the history of gaming that you understand or know. Popularity is fleeting when you make mistakes and when you screw up and when competition comes along. PlayStation 2 was by far the best-selling console ever. Okay, Sony was riding a huge wave of success. They were the most popular console on the face of the planet at that point in time. They fumbled the ball with the PlayStation 3. Xbox 360 took over that mind share for most of that generation. PS3 eventually caught up due to the fact that it was the cheapest Blu-ray market player on the market at that time. A lot of people
Xbox was
bought
having
it for
issues
that.
at the time too.
Xbox was having huge issues. PlayStation 3 had some good games come out. So Sony rightfully went into the PlayStation 4 generation on an upswing. And Microsoft did have a lot of mind share at that point. And what did Microsoft do? Microsoft fumbled the ball out the gate, right? On the Xbox One generation, Sony took full advantage as a business competitor, absolutely 100% should. They tried to bury Xbox, and they did a great job with it. They grabbed that mind share back, especially over in Europe. They dominated in Europe. And obviously, they're going to dominate in the East, where Microsoft has never been able to get a foothold. But again, popularity comes and goes at the end of the day. And you talk about Spider-Man being the most popular. Listen, if Spider-Man is the most popular, which I don't disagree with from a character standpoint, they still only sold, 30 million Spider-Man copies? There's 40 million Sony PlayStation 4s out there. Why didn't Spider-Man sell 100 million copies? Not everybody plays the same games. Not everybody's looking for that certain genre that Sony has become masters in, both in the superhero genre and in the third-person over-the-shoulder narrative-driven game. They're wildly popular, but they don't sell one for one on their consoles. Xbox has the potential right now, and you can see it in the numbers. If you go look at the numbers, especially in the United States, they are taking back mindshare. Now they're gaining a little bit of ground in Europe. Yes, they're still getting outsold, of course. Sony rightfully has the number one spot. Microsoft is now changing the game. That's why they're investing all this money. So to sit there and think just because right now Sony is number one, that continues forward with all the stuff that Microsoft is doing and what Xbox is putting out there as far as Game Pass goes, as far as value goes, eventually that's going to start catching up. And you're seeing more people start to talk about the little stuff that Sony's doing, like $70 games, like increasing their prices on all their consoles worldwide, except for obviously here in America.
And a week later, saying we're saving money.
Right. It's taking a toll on Sony at this point. So to think that just because Sony's number one now doesn't mean that Microsoft can't flip it, that's wrong. So you got to be careful with that stuff. Again, I don't know your history of the video game industry, but we've seen this time and time again. Sega was at least sharing the kingdom with Nintendo at one point, 50-50, okay? If not a little bit more popular. Guess what? Sega got out of the console business because they made some mistakes. Sony is no different than anybody else.
Nintendo fucked up too with the Wii U.
Yep, with the Wii U, exactly. Wii U tripped up Nintendo. So again, Microsoft is doing what they're doing. It takes time to overcome a lot of what they destroyed last generation. Yeah. It takes time to win people back, but that's what they're doing with all these moves. So again, by the end of this generation, it may not be that they outsold Sony console-wise, but if Game Pass reaches 70, 80 million people by the end of this generation, you can say that Microsoft and Xbox won this generation. Okay, the old ways of counting this whole competition thing are thrown out the window at this point. Now we're in a whole new playing field. We're in a whole new game this generation and going forward, and that's what makes the difference here.
Yeah, if you have all these games start dropping, which is going to be the driver of success, right, for Game Pass ultimately, the fact that they've been gaining in market share, which is a big deal, right? Like people when you look at the NPDs and all that kind of stuff, right? It's people like, oh, Sony's winning this week, right? Xbox is winning this week. Hell yeah, we fucking gotta win
Japan this week, I think.
Yeah, regardless, right? Like the ultimate thing is this generation, Xbox in just the console market and just hardware has been gaining market share, right? That's something that didn't happen last year. They were losing market share time and time again. And they didn't start gaining any really until the Xbox One X came out. And they maybe had a slight movement there. But this generation, they've been gaining market share ever since launch. And that's transcended because of Game Pass, right? Because of the value and the Series S, the $300 option that's out there. We realized how many damn people have Series S's the last couple of days because of the Call of Duty issues that have been going on with the beta, and people in the chat like, I got Series S, my Call of Duty beta is not working. We're like, oh shit, yeah. I guess a lot of people have Series S's. Like, they've been gaining a lot of market share. And where you had a 2-to-1 last generation in the US and just consoles, it's like 50-50 almost right now in the US, right? That's the biggest market. That's
What
the
they're past
biggest
their
market.
360 expectations or whatever, right?
Yeah. They're well past. Yeah, well past the 360 expectations, which was their highest selling console. And back then, guess what? In the US, actually the 360 I think was like on a slight edge over the PS3, and globally, the PS3 was higher, right? But it wasn't a big gap in the PS3 and 360. And for a long time, 360 was like way up, and it wasn't until into that generation that it really start to see that big swing. PS4 killed the fucking Xbox. Xbox lost their way, right? But overly, what people care about is two things: they want quality and they want value, right? And if you can provide both, then you're going to get people, right? And they are already gaining that with arguably not the amount of value that they are going to be bringing, right? And they also have been lacking with some of the quality, right, as well, because of the lack of content. Because I think content and a service is part of the quality aspect of what you're looking forward to that. And if you're not, like with Halo Infinite, launched high quality gameplay, great game, but then you're lacking on the content flow, right? But you're getting more than just one game, and people misread that. Oh, people ain't gonna sign up for Game Passes for Halo. You know what I mean? No, they're gonna sign for fucking Game Pass because you got 400, 500 games in there, and it's just maybe that one game is what got them interested in the first place, right? So overall, this is something that builds upon itself every year, right? Because guess what? Xbox first-party games do not leave the service. And a lot of these games get supported for a really long time. So when you have Halo, Fable, Gears, Forza, Elder Scrolls, Starfield, Diablo, Call of Duty, Fable, okay, here, I'll look at this list. Grounded, Avowed, Hellblade 2, Perfect Dark, Deathloop, Redfall, yes, Sea of Thieves is already there, right? Forza Horizon, a Ghostwire Tokyo, Overwatch eventually will be, you'll probably get some kind of perks with that. The new Blizzard game that was announced, a survival game, Indiana Jones is coming. I mean, holy shit, right? Contraband, did I already say that? State of Decay 3, Everwild. I mean, do you want me to keep going? In Exile's game, Compulsion's game, Double Fine's projects that they're going to be doing. Guess what? Gears 6, it just continues and continues. Coalition's other game. Guess what? You don't have to pay $70 for those games. And they're still focusing on the quality aspect on those projects.
The new
Right.
Minecraft game, you can get it free on Xbox. You don't have to pay for it. You got to pay for it on PlayStation.
Minecraft alone, for a lot of people, is worth a subscription price just to play with that and get, like you get into that and game and keep going, and all the other games. And there's so many different things for so many different people. So value speaks for itself, and that's how they're gaining market share already with what they have. All those games I just announced and just talked about, plus a lot more. There's like 50. Once those drop, and they keep dropping and continuously every 2-3 months, which is their goal, that other narrative is dead. People won't be able to say that anymore about, well, Xbox doesn't have this or Xbox doesn't have that. It'll be like, well, what's my excuse? I want to only buy physical copies. It's the only other thing I can think of, right? At that point, other than maybe they don't have the franchises I like. But if they don't,
PlayStation selling you a fucking disc drive,
and like all of these different things, if you can't find a way into that ecosystem for a low price like that, then like I don't understand. Like the metric of success has changed so much, and where the services and revenue of all these subscriptions just adds, that's the metric of their success now. The consoles is secondary, and the consoles are still gaining market share in and of themselves. PlayStation is already feeling this. Do you think PlayStation likes losing their 2-to-1 lead in the US? Do you think PlayStation feels like they're doing well when they lose their market share in the US? I don't think so. And you've seen that they're 45% down year to date. Sony is.
Well, they must like it. They keep making bad decisions.
Last week we talked about it 40%. Now they're 45% down year to date on what their value is to an investor. right? This takes time for these games to drop. Once this flow happens, guess what? Like all the narratives are dead, and people will move the goalpost. PlayStation will be focusing more on their subscriptions and putting more value into it. You're going to see more investments in that regard as well, and then you're going to have a true arms race at that point. But right now, Microsoft is ahead of the game on this, and it's too late to really stop that train, right? Because even without Activision Blizzard, it's still checkmate right now. That's just the truth.
To apologize, too late to turn around.
Yeah. Too late to apologize. DRAWNTJ with the $2 super chat says, "Hi guys." Hi DRAWNTJ, appreciate you. Yeah, I mean, it's just crazy, dude. You think about all this stuff, and I get PlayStation's popular. It doesn't damn matter, right? Because guess what? Like, you know what? Like, Adidas was the #1 brand. Nike is the #1 brand. Champion was the #1 brand.
Champion was never the #1 brand.
Whatever. It's coming back now.
There was a time.
A Reebok. You know, it doesn't matter what the hell's popular at any one time. Stuff comes up and down, right? Like, and it's happened time and time and generation. There was a time when the Sega Genesis had the street cred, right? Look at Sega now.
Yeah. There's a time when Sony dominated the electronics market.
Yeah, there was a time when the TV was the best thing on the planet, right? Got a Sony TV right there because I got a good deal on it.
Trinitrons were the freaking
Bravia.
You had to have a Trinitron.
Oh, this flat, because they were the CRT TVs that had the fucking flat screen on it still. You know what I mean? It looked great. We had a Trinitron. My brother had it first, and I stole it from him eventually. Man, those are great TVs, dude. Guess what? LG and Samsung got the TV market now, right? Yeah. Like, things
Sony
change.
Walkman, then you got Apple come along and make iPods.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
Things change. Things change, and they always do, and they always will, right?
Remember Blockbuster?
Yeah.
Walden Books? Yeah.
Oh, the Sony Wega. Yeah. Jason says you got to call Cap on that Champion comment. Champion is like ridiculously expensive all of a sudden and really popular now. All the kids love Champion now.
The resale, because the Kardashians started wearing it.
Is that why? I don't know.
Yeah,
it's like
they started wearing it a couple years ago, and then all the influencers on Instagram and shit started wearing it. So
I thought that was all that Supreme bullshit.
Supreme was for a while, but then Champion came back around. So me and the wife, because we used to resell, when Champion hit, you could go to Goodwill and pick up Champion for shit because nobody knew, and turn around and sell it for big bank. So all the
Champion
kids
became the trendy product
in the 90s when I was going to high school. That was like the sweatshirt, and the jacket was the starter jacket.
You know what I'm waiting for? You know what I'm waiting for, Fuzz? And Mav, you'll remember too, the college sweatshirts to come back. Remember when you had to have the college?
Oh, yeah.
Remember they had like all the colleges, and that's all you saw everywhere, and that's what you wore? Oh, God, man.
I still got some of those.
It's crazy, guys. I mean, we're in this different era now, gaming. So we're gonna see what happens. Ultimately, time will tell. I think Xbox kind of already has that value market proposition to kind of secure their place in gaming now. It's just they got to get the damn games out. But other than that, it's been real, guys. Great conversation. Pong Soul. Let's get everybody out of here. Where can everybody find you?
Yeah, what a great night, brothers. This was awesome. Talking the talk, having some fun. Listen, get a little spirited. There's nothing wrong with that. These are passionate topics, and we got a lot going on these days in the gaming industry. That's why we're all here. Chat, you all were amazing. Chat's been moving all night long. Great comments in there. Again, all of our regulars, saw some new people in there as well tonight. Appreciate you all dropping by and taking the time to listen to us tonight. So, listen, you can find me Pong Soul on Xbox, Pong Soul on Twitter. You know that drill. Tomorrow morning, everybody, 3+ hours with my brother from another Steel Rain on Living Split Screen, 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 o'clock Central Time, 3 p.m. BST time. Set those alarms before you go to bed. Set them right now so you get that reminder pop up tomorrow morning. We will be live, raw, and uncut as always. You know it's going to be another passionate conversation when Steel and I get rocking and rolling, so be there tomorrow morning. Tomorrow night, it is, of course, the shop podcast over on PTK Blam's channel. Of course, PTK is going to be there because he's the man. And then we got, of course, Fuzzy right here. He's going to also be there, and it's going to be myself. And do we have Fuzzy? Do we have a guest tomorrow? I don't remember.
I don't think we do.
I don't think we do. I think it's gonna be us three rocking and rolling, which means there probably will be extra time where PTK lets you guys take over the show, throw in some questions, throw in a topic that you want us to talk about. So drop in there, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 o'clock Central Time. Xbox Factor podcast every Tuesday, whether I'm there or not. Mr. Boomstick, Double Barrel Gaming is the channel. All good things green every Tuesday, 12 p.m. Eastern, 11 o'clock Central Time. And then, of course, Thursdays, it is PM in the PM. Pong and Mav in the PM. We will probably be back to a two-man team this week. We've had 3 weeks in a row of guests. We had Psychonauts. Of course, we had Dealer. And then last night we had Jez. So if you haven't checked any of those out, go check them out. Great conversations. But it'll be me and Mav. Thursday night, PM in the PM, 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 o'clock Central Time. We'll be back at a normal time this week, or should be, unless something pops up, which between Mav and I, we never know. But we should be there this week. So do that. Otherwise, it's the golden age of gaming. Golden age of gaming. Gamers, listen up. It's the best time ever to be gaming. Get out there, play what you love what you play. Have a fantastic weekend. I'm going to talk to you all real soon.
Heck yeah, Pong Soul.
Insipid Ghost is your guest on the shop.
Oh, Insipid's joining us? Oh, well,
nice.
thank you for I didn't not know that. Okay, well, Insipid Ghost is going to be there, which is going to be fantastic, man.
Luke.
Brings a ton of knowledge. Luke has great guests on. He's been on a roll with guests and everything else, so I can't wait to talk to him.
I'm a little jealous of Luke because he did what I started out trying to do, right? Like he started a one-man show, right? And he has Xbox expansion pass. And he is a fantastic one-man host, but he does have excellent interviews and guests on his show. Runs a really professional, fantastic podcast, and he's probably, I would have to say, honestly, like I know I'm kind of going on a tangent, but Luke is one of the most talented podcasters out there, just individually. And on YouTube, he doesn't get a lot of views on YouTube, but his on audio, his show is huge, right? So I recommend everybody check out Xbox Expansion Pass on YouTube, also on audio platforms as well, especially for amazing interviews. Like he had what's the guy, the voice actor from Halo on there. He had Seamus Blackley on as well.
Yeah, his interview with Seamus went viral too.
Yeah,
a lot of good stuff out of there.
Excellent stuff, and he's a good guy too. We need to get him back on the show sometime. So shout out to him. Fuzzy Belvedere, the always fuzzy one. Appreciate you being here as always, dude, and everything you do for us and this channel. Where can everybody find you?
Just thank you for having me. It was awesome being on here with you guys and everybody that came out to watch us live and those that'll catch us, in replay later. For those that just want to hear my rambling on anything gaming related, just follow me on Twitter at fuzzy_Belvedere. Like Pong said, catch us on the Shop Podcast, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow with Insipid Ghost, as well as on Monday. You can find me on Double Barrel Gaming, Mr. Boomstick's channel with the lunch break.
New show, huh,
lunch
Fuzz?
break special. Yeah. So it'll be me, Web Dave, and Mr. Boomstick just going over some recent topics and stuff. And then you can catch that at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then later on that day, FSP, 10 p.m. 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on this channel with Mav, with Lore Master Jasper, with 3-Bit. And basically we just go over, most recent stuff in the news on gaming and the upcoming games for the week. And then you can also find me on Breakfast with Boom, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Friday morning. Also on Double Barrel Gaming's channel or Mr. Boomstick's channel. And then right back here on Xbox Ultimate with these guys at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Can't wait.
Right on, bro. I appreciate you as always as well, Fuzz. Hey, and the Lore Master himself, Jasper Gaming. Where can everybody find your sweaty ass Call of Duty gameplay?
You can check out my sweaty ass Call of Duty gameplay on
make sure you add Call of Duty gameplay, not just checking out your sweaty ass.
Lord Master Jasper on YouTube, Lord Jasper on Twitter. pretty much where I'm at. Find me there. And then just FSP, like Fuzzy's saying, on Monday nights, 10 o'clock here, and Xbox Ultimate Friday nights, 9 o'clock here, Eastern Time. That's where I'm at. Check that out.
And be on the lookout for his OnlyFans where you can get his real sweaty ass. Yes.
Do they allow guys on OnlyFans?
Yes, they do.
Well,
You thinking
know what
about
I'm
it,
doing
Jasper?
later tonight? No. I'll just go to Twitch for that.
What? Follow me from Call of Duty to OnlyFans. No, I think Jasper, I was talking to Kate and I was telling her that I think what you need to do on your channel, because I'm always thinking about other people's channels and what they should do for some damn reason, because I think like you're so fucking good at Call of Duty, it's ridiculous that you should have like a
average, bro.
No, you're not. You need to have like a bunch of montage gameplay clips with music and stuff, you know?
So, so you want me to go back to 2007?
No, here's the thing. Put some like awesome like montages with like music and like clips and stuff. Put them together. And record them at really high quality and put them on your channel, because people need to see how damn good you are. Because
Like the thing is with that, like I thought about doing that before, but like I never record my clips. Like I'll do like something amazing, but I just feel like I do it all the time, so I never record it. Like I know it sounds a little braggy, whatever, but like hitting like a quad feed or whatever, I just feel like that's kind of normal for me, so I don't record it. It's just like,
no,
doesn't
just
everyone
put
do that?
post that
record
shit.
everything.
Just record everything, and then take your stream or like your recording of your play session,
And
go
cut it out,
back
yeah.
and look at your kills and your like moments where you had like kill streaks and stuff, and clip those, right, and then put them in a montage, and put some killer ass music to it and stuff, and dude, like I fucking. Like that's you put that on YouTube Shorts. You can put that on TikTok and stuff. It'll fucking I think it'll blow up, because people don't realize how damn good you are, bro. We were playing the beta yesterday. This dude had 41 kills. I had like 3. I think that the most other on our team had was like 8, maybe 6, 7. This dude had 41 kills. The entire other team had 41 kills. Jasper scored the same amount as the entire other team in a game where most of us were struggling. That was insane. Anyway,
I'm just average. It's not that good, bro.
I don't know. It's a different league from me, for damn sure. I did start to find my groove last night after Pong got disconnected. I found my gun. So I can't wait to dive in tonight. But everybody, hey,
I can't wait for you to switch it around.
I will probably. I may be streaming some COD tonight as well, guys. But other than that, tune in back on Mondays for Fun Speculation Podcast at 10 p.m. Eastern. Thursdays, PM in the PM, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And game streams, co-streams, reaction stuff. We try and do as much as we can, and appreciate everybody in the chat. You guys freaking rock. Have a good one. Bye.
Later.
Bye.